way, or at least not at first. But at first, maybe the blackmail is small. Maybe it's just simple things. And you never know what kind of leverages people get with politicians. And eventually, Schmooly, hanging out with you, declaring anti-Semitism the greatest health crisis in America
It's
today.
absurd.
Or whatever it is.
Absurd. And this kind of really gets right to the crux of everything that's happening, which is you're seeing actually the left and the right unite on this one topic of recognizing that it's really wrong what's happening in Palestine. And this is such, to me, just a humanitarian issue, humanitarian approach. And they're trying to win this issue with smears. And it's crazy. And you're a perfect example of that. So you've really had, I would say, your come up. I love their narrative that he came out of nowhere. He must be funded. No, actually, he's been on TikTok for quite some time going through grocery aisles. If I know that some older people were not on TikTok, and I'm kind of generation Instagram is where it stopped. But when I finally got on TikTok, and you're a big deal on TikTok.
Blew up
on TikTok, just going through the grocery aisle, talking about who owns what. And then when the Israel-Palestine thing happened, you were very clear about your position on this. And obviously, when Elon Musk and you got into that back forth, things hit another level because you were so sensible about speaking about why it is that Americans would not feel allegiance to Israel, which is our right. It is so weird that they think that they're going to try to psychologically convince us that we have no right to not support a foreign nation by calling everybody anti-Semitic.
And so to watch them laws.
And then, we're just going to pass censorship laws. 350 million of you are just not going to be able to say anything bad about Israel.
All you people that think the Jews control the world, you know what we'll do? We'll all pass laws that say you can't say that. That'll teach them. Like, clearly these people have never taught young kids. When you teach young kids, you learn that you can't tell young kids, like, you can't do that double think with young people these days. They see right through it. And it only enhances their conviction and actually creates more real anti-Semitism, as well as just, basic noticing of facts.
There is noticing the facts that's happening. I think this book here has done more damage than anything that you or I could ever say. And I actually wanted to bring up this book, Chaos, because they are totally chaos. But just to be clear for you guys that are watching this at home, it was a CIA operation. And they're doing it right now. So if you're wondering why all of these random accounts are suddenly saying that I'm funded by Qatar, I absolutely am not funded by Qatar. I'd like to be, by the way, Qatar, if you're watching, I'm not opposed to reading some ads for you. It's totally fine because everybody else works with you, including Bibi Netanyahu, who's going through a Qatar trial right now, which is the rich irony of all of this. You're not funded by Qatar.
No, I'm not funded by anyone. I'm poor.
So this is amazing. So I was reading this because I do a book club here. The Chaos was born out of LBJ's, the Chaos CIA program was born out of LBJ. So JFK gets shot, LBJ becomes president of the United States and just reverses course on everything that JFK was doing in terms of his foreign policy with Israel. And he's getting them weapons, he's getting them money, and he wants war. So we're right back in that circumstance where it's like war. We're talking about war with Iran. And then there were these natural student protests that were happening because people were against the Vietnam War. And LBJ didn't believe that these could be organic protests. He believed that they needed to seed the public with this idea that these protests were actually a foreign infiltration. And so they began this Operation Chaos to discredit people by pretending that they were foreign operators. And that's exactly what they're doing to me, you, and Tucker right now. And it's just amazing. And I'm like, guys, this is you don't just randomly just say, Candace is funded by Qatar, Ian's funded by Qatar. They're all saying the same talking point, but while ignoring Bibi Netanyahu's trial for funding Qatar to give money to Hamas. Which is incredible.
So damning in so many ways. And it's not to mention that, so Chaos is the one where they're surveilling and targeting and smearing and libeling these protesters, but that's overlapped over COINTELPRO, which was instated by J. Edgar Hoover, more so, although COINTELPRO tactics are universal. But that's actually causing dissidents to fight each other, causing spreading rumors about Black Panthers sleeping with each other's wives, spreading, salacious details that may or may not be true about Martin Luther King or other things. And to be clear, a lot of the rumors about Martin Luther King were probably somewhat true, but just sowing division amongst the ranks and getting people to fight each other and that was all enacted by J. Edgar Hoover, who was being blackmailed by the Jewish mob for his sexual perversions at the time. And so it's such a funny and tragic right of like the exact same history is rhyming all over again in so many ways.
The Bible says nothing new under the sun, and I feel like we are right back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I want people to recognize that, because I got a chill down my spine reading about the Black Panthers and COINTELPRO, and recognizing that they infiltrated these groups because their biggest fear, and this was the entire thing behind the Charles Manson lie and pretending it was a race war that he wanted, was they were very fearful of Black nationalists and white liberals coming together. And I was sitting here going, oh my gosh, I have these beliefs, like they're going through Black Panthers beliefs in this book, and they're like, you know, they believed in the Second Amendment that you should defend yourself. They didn't trust the government. They believed in like they needed to keep like their families together, and they freaked out when people on the left began supporting them. They didn't want union, so they wanted to sow racial discord. And I think about why so many liberals hated me, because they thought I was like a self-hating Black person. And I'm going, guys, read this book. Like the CIA is doing this all over again, trying to discredit and trying to sow discord, and we really need to like stay together right now.
100%. And it ties into the thing that initially brought us together in content was Diddy, is that once they saw how powerful these Black movements could be, because Black people have had such a bad like go of it politically in those earlier days especially, and then through the civil rights movement they saw, oh my goodness, these people can really organize, these people can really project quality arguments and make a difference. We need to figure out, and I'm speculating a little bit as to the connections from A to B, but you wind up with Black culture being propped up by a whole bunch of blackmailers and really corrupt celebrities that are pulling strings in order to promote the most degenerate artists you could ever promote, in order to promote culture that is a direct pipeline to prison, which is basically used as slave labor today by all the biggest corporations like Starbucks, McDonald's, Verizon. Like you're calling your Verizon sales rep, and some of those calls are going into prisons to people that are getting paid like cents per hour. And so the way that the Black community has been undermined since the sort of 80s and 90s through rap
Next time I call Verizon, I'm going to ask the person if they're in prison.
Tragic. And I think that the seeds are sowed in that time period of the Black Panthers being such a threat. Not a physical, violent threat in most cases, but rather a political
fucking lost
threat.
one on the way here.
Yeah, and that's really funny, because I was reading a passage in the book club yesterday or the day before, and it speaks about how part of this program, they infiltrated the Black Panthers and had a guy who got really close with the guy at the top. His name was Freddie.
That
One of the guys
motherfucker!
at the top, and for months, Freddie basically said they're not doing anything illegal, right? And they're not doing anything illegal, and they didn't care. And one night they had him drug him, and the FBI raided and shot him in the back of the head and killed him, just because he had a following. And this is what they were worried about with Martin Luther King.
Are you?
And so the biggest fear that they have is nationalism, true nationalism, like true America first.
Okay.
We don't want to be involved in your war. We don't care about what's happening in Vietnam. We don't care how close you are to Israel, LBJ, and the unity that could come between white people and Black people. And so I really recommend people that are listening to this to read this book so that you have an understanding. It will force you to re-examine your relationship with the media when they're kind of using these tactics against people that are clearly not being affected by foreign nations.
Thanks, Jody!
Accuse us of exactly what it is that they're doing, which is committing themselves to a foreign nation. I do want to circle back because of that to the point about RFK, because I will say, I kind of think, and this could just be me, this is going to get people upset, but when I examine everything that I know about RFK's death, JFK's death, the truth behind those deaths, I do think he's a coward. I do think there is no way you would have me wrapped in an Israeli flag running around with Rabbi Shmuley with the lingering questions and the facts that we have about what happened with these two particular murders. And I just say that for me, like, I would have to die on my feet. Like, I couldn't do it. You know?
I do. I always try to remind myself that there's factors I don't know at play. There's factors that I might not understand. But at the same time, you are right that how grievous would those factors have to be for them to legitimize this sort of an action from RFK Jr. based upon what we know, like what he knows about Sirhan Sirhan. And like that's his dad that Sirhan Sirhan allegedly killed, right? And you did a great piece on that the other day. And it is tragic that I assume my presumption is that there's a compromise being made in his mind of I can put this issue to the side if it allows me to tackle this issue, being like the vaccines and the health and all that. But then the problem is that I put out that video that blew the world up, and I'm getting contacted by like Maha moms that have been involved in the movement for 10 years and by other people that were in the campaign. And one of the main like rumor mill concerns is that the vaccine stuff seems to not be being taken seriously.
Yeah.
It seems like we are diverting to food over and over and over, which is good, and that's great, and I'm happy we're getting food dye out of our food. But let's be real. Millions of people were harmed and killed by this bioweapon that we know now was engineered by our government and our deep state, and then was leaked out of a lab that we were running, and then the vaccines were also already like funded and helped make, like the CIA helped make the mRNA technology that was used in those vaccines. And then the liability shields, like the amount of evidence that is being compiled as to the multi-billion-dollar profit and the multi-million-dollar death toll of this scam. And we're in that window right now where if they get away with it, like I said, it's like a post-2008 feeling to me, where if we let them get away with it for enough years, no one's going to ever be held accountable, and they're going to just go free with their billion-dollar paychecks and no one held accountable. And I can't help but wonder if the Maha movement has been infiltrated in some way in order to make compromises that you can do this but not this, you can get this done, but it's just politics. This is just how it works. And I guess we just can't, whoopsies, I guess the vaccine thing is too controversial to do now.
Which is crazy. Like, this is the entire reason that people got behind him, was to deal with this, to give parents choice when it comes to vaccines. Like, to say, no, actually, no, you can't compel children and babies to get vaccines in order for them to be able to go to school and things of that nature. And all of it's taking, it seems to me, a backseat. And I would say, by the way, as an extension of that, also the MAGA movement. It sort of feels like they're doing the bare minimum for Americans and what we actually put them in office for, and then doing the absolute maximum for like Bibi Netanyahu's entire agenda, while being like, oh, but look, we did, at least Tom Homan did get out 2,000 criminals in the border, we've stopped it. We've asked you for a lot more. The mandate was a lot more, and you seem to have, in just 3 months, done so much for Israel. You know what I mean? Yeah. If we could dedicate that same energy to what you promised everyone that you were going to do for Americans, that would be great. But once again, we're left feeling like this is just a slave colony.
Yeah, and the fact that the movement is called America First originally, and that is a stroke of genius, because it is so hard. They're trying their best, but it's so hard to make what they're doing look America First, and they're trying to do all these backwards arguments. Like, how is passing speech laws that like in some cases criminalize, or at the very least, kick you out of school, pull your federal funding if you criticize Israel? There are no laws about racism in America. If you Google right now, there is no recognized definition of racism by our government. But if you Google America's official definition of anti-Semitism, there's a whole page on the State Department's website about anti-Semitism. And so how do you call this America First when we are explicitly going against our First Amendment of our Constitution on behalf of a different nation? And inside of those guidelines, they specifically say that saying that Jewish people would have more allegiance to Israel than to America because they're Jewish, that's anti-Semitic to say, while out of their mouths they're saying,
go lay down on your bed.
To do these things for Israel, or like, I am a Jew first above all else. Things like that are like, how are we going along with this cognitive dissonance?
All right, guys, interrupting this conversation to remind you about preborn ministries.
Nobody.
Because when a woman faces an unplanned pregnancy, she's pressured to end her child's life. She wants to make the right choice, but society and many people around her are saying that the baby's not a life. That's where the Ministry of Preborn steps in. Preborn and their network of clinics offer compassionate and loving care to mothers, as well as the support that they need to help them choose life, including a free ultrasound, because once a mother hears her child's heartbeat, she's twice as likely to choose life. If you consider yourself to be pro-life, it's time to join forces with Preborn. Together, we can empower women to choose life. Empowering the truth of motherhood can transform families and futures. One ultrasound costs just $28, and $140 will help to rescue 5 babies. When you donate monthly, you'll receive stories and pictures of the lives that you help to save. To donate, just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby. Or you can donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. Also reminding you guys about Tax Network USA, because April is upon us. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world, and April 15th is fast approaching. It's more
There
aggressive than
you
ever.
go.
In
Good boy.
2025, enforcement has ramped up, and if you owe back taxes or have unfiled returns, waiting is simply not an option. The longer that you do wait, it gets worse. Ignoring your tax troubles is the worst thing you could possibly do, actually. Getting ahead of this now is the smart move, but you should never contact the IRS alone. Instead, let the experts at Tax Network USA handle it for you. Not all tax resolution companies are the same. Tax Network USA has a preferred direct line to the IRS, meaning that they know exactly which agents to deal with and which ones to avoid. With proven strategies to settle tax problems in your favor, whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, Tax Network USA's attorneys and negotiators have already resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. So speak with one of their strategists today because it's free. Call 1-800-958-1000, or you can visit tnusa.com/Candace. Again, that's tnusa.com/Candace. Do you think that there will be a moment where we are seeing Americans arrested? Because I'm so shocked by the fact that they're arresting students that have green cards and getting them out of, kicking them out of the country. And I'm just going, was I alive for BLM when the Trump administration in 2016 took the approach that this was really wrong and radical and leftist, when people were demanding speech laws and hate speech laws for BLM, and we were talking about how wrong that was, and now they've completely done a 180. This administration's done a 180, and they're like, but for the special category of Israel, we can, all of this is actually fine. Like, woke is fine when it comes to Israel. Do you think there will come a time, because they do have these laws, like if I go down to Florida, do you think like Ron DeSantis is going to have me arrested if I criticize Israel?
I don't know how fast it'll happen, but in Europe, it's already happening. And if you notice the language, the IHRA definition, they've always been very intentional to say a non-legally binding definition, which to me is a direct setup for where they're going. And this is something that people like, to their credit, people like Whitney Webb have been talking about for quite some time, that the surveillance state is vastly, like the vast majority of the surveillance state is built on Israeli technology by Israeli tech firms. And Palantir is a great example. Palantir funded J.D. Vance to the nines. J.D. Vance is like, his whole inspiration for politics came from the Palantir and Peter Thiel space. And so those companies, they have massive AI-led databases that are just surveillance maximal. And they have surveillance on our phones, they have surveillance in our schools, they have surveillance in our EMS response systems. And those databases are cataloging everything that we're doing. And we don't really have a lot of transparency on what they're cataloging. But when I'm looking at the policies, and I'm looking at where Europe has gone with said policies, and I'm looking at the people that are behind the policies in America, to me, it looks like a direct walk from you are anti-Semitic to you support terrorists to you're a domestic terrorist. Now we have a reason to come after you. And I don't think that America will stand for it. I think that Americans are wise, and I think that we were raised on a culture of liberty and freedom of speech. And I think that they're trying to do a thing that is impossible to do, but it's only impossible to do because of people like you, because of people like Tucker, because of people in the media. I mean, even people like Joe Rogan, who gets called controlled opposition all the time. Like, he chose to have the conversation he had with me. He chose to have conversations with people about vaccines. Like, people will only go so far, and we have this media environment now where people that are wise and capable have enough reach to speak out and to counter narrative. And if we didn't, I would think that we'd already be there. But I think they're going to try their hardest, because it is an existential threat to the survival of the state of Israel, which is an existential threat to all Jews, is how a lot of people see it, even though that is anti-Semitic to say based upon their new speech laws.
Right. It's just absolutely incredible to see this happening. And I came up in politics with so many people who were fighting this BLM stuff, fighting these laws, and I just feel like they've become massive hypocrites because all they want is access to power, and they're willing to pretend like they have a total blind spot on this issue and just be consistent. If people have a right to say what they want to say about any group of people, if they want to, and the idea that there needs to be some special laws on the book that are it's now creeping into the territory of saying that your religion is anti-Semitic.
Oh, it's directly in the guidelines.
The Jordan Peterson teaming up with the ADL to produce a report that didn't even spell psychology right, which was a tremendous embarrassment for that video to have gone out.
Oh, how the Peterson star has fallen.
I mean, that's been something to see. Yeah. And it's sad because I had no hatred at all when he wrote that I don't know if we have that. Or
he helped red pill me in the first place. He helped get me thinking more critically about my beliefs when I was a leftist. And it was BLM that red pilled me, because I was living in Bellingham, which is like micro Seattle. And my roommates were going out to like multi-thousand person protests in Seattle and then coming back and being mass Nazis. And I was like, what is going on, guys? This doesn't make sense. And I was watching the live streams of what was actually happening in Seattle, and the CHOP, in the Chaz, like pallets of bricks, all sorts of stuff. And I think BLM is a good example of another movement that probably right from the very start was infiltrated by these people that run COINTELPRO and run these operations. And a lot of the black people that were involved in that, I think, had legitimate perspectives and legitimate grievances that would have gone about it a much different way had they been the ones solely in control of the movement. But when you get your fangs in one of these movements early on, you can, and the CIA has been studying this stuff since the 60s and before, of how do you direct narratives to get people to follow things like cults, to get people to sort of be brainwashed by ideas, not just through hypnosis and drugs, because that's how you get people doing your job for you. Going on TV, even though you're not an operative, you're on TV vehemently defending Israel at all costs, or vehemently defending transgenderism at all costs, even though your arguments make zero sense, and even like the slightest bit of conversation exposes what's going on here. If you control enough of the media and enough of the airwaves, and you have enough people brainwashed to do this job for you, you can really take a movement like BLM right from the start and push it exactly where you want to go.
And it's just so ironic to examine this happening under a Trump administration when Trump ran, the entire thing was they kept saying he was Adolf Hitler. They kept saying he was anti-Semitic. It wasn't true. They looked through every possible venue to get this man dismissed because, you know, he can't run for president. He's this, he's that. And now he's allowing his administration to put into place laws to condemn the very people that got him into the office on behalf of the people who tried to keep him out.
Well, Miriam Adelson is going to get her money's worth. That's for dang sure. Right? And so I always think back to one of the most awesome moments in political history, which was Trump on stage in the first debate rounds in the primaries in 2015, probably, with Jeb Bush on stage, and Trump says, those are all their donors in the audience, and I couldn't get any because it's only seats for donors, and I don't want your money, I don't need your money. And it was such a slap in the face moment, and that was maybe it was the same Trump, maybe it was all an act, I don't know. But that, that energy is long gone.
It's gone.
And I mean, I'm optimistic about some of the things that are being done right now, but a lot of people are right on the money that Biden, whoever was behind Biden, crashed so much, so intentionally, so obviously, that it's hard not to wonder if that wasn't an intentional setup to lay the groundwork for Trump to get a whole bunch of easy wins. Right?
That is
because
exactly what I've been saying.
And Elon and him are doing all these easy wins that, yes, they are good at face value, and a lot of them are critical.
God damn, dude! I love it when my feelings are validated.
In some instances, and in some instances, they're actually creating a major void where, we don't need all these bureaucrats to work this job. We should replace them with AI. Like, we don't need all these people to do these jobs. We got technology that can take this over. And this is where the people on the internet that have been sort of ostracized for a long time, talking about technocracy and about how we're walking closer and closer to this digital surveillance state, it's never been a popular take because it goes against both parties. But they've been sounding the alarm on Trump for a long time. And I'm not ready to say that they're necessarily right, but I am ready to say that everyone should be paying attention to this angle.
I think it's crazy. I mean, it's totally crazy for me to see the MAGA movement, which I thought was based on wanting to go back to how America was, Christian beliefs, hard work, and now we have a person who's effectively living at the White House who has been very explicit in what he believes in. Like, he wants data. Okay, he's not in there because he's fine. And everyone's, you needed him for Doge. What are you talking about? You needed an accountant to accomplish Doge. This is so weird. And I think that our issue is that we glorify these technocrats in the same way that the left glorifies celebrities. It's like they're mesmerized by Elon Musk's money. They're mesmerized by his success in the same way that a leftist might have been mesmerized by Taylor Swift's success and therefore are willing to listen to her political things. He's never been fleshed out. There's never been a tough interview asking Elon Musk about how you're going to shrink the very same government that you take money from, that all of your businesses rely upon, that you have contracts with. And that's a very important question to ask him. It doesn't need to be hostile, but what do you believe in? It's not family. Yeah. Right? So if we're talking about making America great again, we're talking about when we are on the basis of when we were based on our families and people were not being replaced by AI robots and not aspirationally wanting everyone to drive a Tesla or an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want a gas guzzler forever because I know what comes with that is more control. Like,
yeah,
I don't
they
want
can't shut your car off
I
or
don't
tell
want to be
you
able
how
to shut
far
my
you
car
can
off.
drive
Yes.
based on your social credit score.
Right. And I feel like Elon Musk needs to clarify what he believes on those issues because I don't want to become China. And I don't know that Elon Musk doesn't want to become China because that would enrich him. And I don't, and when people instantly defend him, I'm going, Elon Musk was not MAGA yesterday. And now all of a sudden the MAGA can't question, like original MAGA can't even question him because he's standing next to Trump. And so I certainly am questioning the circle of actors that are around Trump. And I have never felt good just on my spiritual vibes when it comes to Elon Musk. I feel he's a part of the Peter Thiel. We're just going to get all of these people in line with AI, and it's going to be a tech future, and we're going to combine robots with humanity, and that will be that, and we will do the thinking for you. Yeah. That's the vibe I get from these people.
So I understand. So coming from the left has been really useful for me because I understand a lot of the arguments on the other side. This isn't really a left-right thing, but I was taken in for a long time, and I still sometimes I entertain the idea that yeah, technology is coming regardless. We will march on. And you know, you could have a horrible person in charge of that transformation, or you could have a good person in charge of that transformation. Elon has done an exceptional job, politically speaking, of branding himself as the good technocrat, as the technocrat you can trust, as the one that's for free speech at all costs, though he's not, and the one that like founded all his own companies, and he's amazing. But actually, he didn't actually do the work to found a lot of those companies. Like, it's not exactly clear how brilliant his mind is in those companies. And the thing that actually really started waking me up to it, ironically, is the video game scandal that he had. Where do you even realize that Elon was faking that he was the top 10 video gamer at the hardest video game in the world?
I didn't know it was
There's
fake.
This whole scandal. It's fake, and it's obviously fake, and people exposed it at length online. That clearly he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know how the
slow
items
this down
worked.
Because people might not have. I just recently heard from someone on my team about how he was the #1 gamer. So slow this down.
Exceptionally hard video game. The kind of video game that, and I'm not super familiar with this video game, but I used to play a lot of video games. And it's the kind of video game that people will play thousands of hours just to be able to beat the third boss out of 30 or something. I'm making numbers up, but it's like an insanely hard video game. And so it's highly prestigious. And he came to, he was in the top of the leaderboards worldwide. And then this other video game, Diablo 4, I think it was, same thing, top of the leaderboards. But then he started live streaming it, and people realized that he didn't even know basic things, like about how this item works and about the strategy of how you do this, this movement thing to get the, and everyone was like, wait a minute, this is not a top video game player playing this game. And then they dug in more, and it came out that basically the entire thing was a fake. And the fact that you would construct some fake characterization of you as some top video gamer, which obviously you don't have the time to be the top video game player of this multi-thousand-hour type of difficulty game while you're running 6 companies. That's a ridiculous thing.
I wish you hadn't told me this, because my conspiracy theory, where my brain goes naturally with him, is that it's all too impossible. Yeah. You can't be running all of these businesses plus be the #1 gamer given thousands of hours to some random game. And then I read this that was what I was saying. It's just, none of this makes any sense. And we're just being told that he does do all of this stuff. But what if it's actually no, the government created all of that stuff, and then they just handed it to Elon Musk to be the face of it, so that people would be just adoring him and allow him to do whatever it was and allow him to get in there as if he's just a player working for somebody else. And I didn't want to lean into that, but I genuinely just go, there's not enough hours in the day for all the things that we're supposed to believe Elon Musk is doing. He was able to just leave all of these 3 big companies.
Baby mama drama all over the place.
All over the place. And then also, I just find him to be quite volatile in terms of his treatment of people. Even the Ashley St. Clair thing. 100%. And I'm going, to lead successful businesses, you can't be like that. You have to be able to get along, take a little bit of criticism, right? And I think Steve Bannon hit the nail on the head when he said he can't take any criticism. And as soon as someone upsets him, he's locking out your accounts over H-1B visas. It's dude, can't we just have a debate about H-1B visas?
I thought this was the free speech platform.
Yes, and suddenly he got very weird about it. And so now what you're saying is that was faked. That's
the video game one was fake, yeah. And it kind of got pushed to the side because video gaming is sort of a cult culture. It's a very micro, it's a huge culture. But if you're not in video games, it's
Don't
really
mess
easy
with
for
the
that to not
gamers, they
come
know
across your
stuff.
feed. Oh yeah, Gamergate is such a cool rabbit hole to go down.
I
Change
got
the
started in
internet.
Gamergate.
Oh, you guys missed the
Ever,
whole
right?
thing.
And so it's just little things started to add up around Elon that
You've been putting
I
stuff
started
up on the
to have
back
more
wall.
questions about. Is he really doing what we're being told he's doing while he's tweeting all day long?
He tweets all day.
long.
Tweets all day.
Right? And so it starts to get very concerning as far as where are we going and who is taking us there.
Okay.
Because right now, this is more of a crypto conversation, is there's a divide between centralized and decentralized. And crypto is the obvious place for this, where the banks are trying to take the concept of crypto and turn it into this centralized digital currency model where, oh, it'll be just as good as crypto, but we'll control it from the inside, so there will be none of this crazy volatility, none of these crazy problems. So I think that they created a lot of those problems to make crypto look bad. But crypto has lots of problems. Decentralized media has lots of problems. Like in our industry, the decentralized media, people get things wrong. Like we spread misinformation on accident. People can, come in and spread misinformation on purpose. But would you rather live in a world where these systems are decentralized and we all control a small piece, or where it's centralized and someone controls your brain chip and they can turn it off and lock you down in your home and control how far your car can drive if you don't play ball? And so more and more it's looking like in crypto and finance, in AI and technology, in communications and media, in all these different aspects that control the world, we are seeing the decentralized technologies change the game forever. Crypto changing money, media changing the news and information, and over and over and over. And more we're seeing figureheads being propped up that sort of seem to be on the team of decentralized, seem to be pro-free speech, seem to be pro-crypto, and then we kind of like somehow walk into this world where actually it's going to be this US government thing, or actually it's going to be this like, we'll just run Grok and it'll be the best one ever. Things like that.
I wish you didn't tell me this, because I've just been reading so much about and speaking about Tavistock Institute, if you're familiar with that, like they can quite literally just make someone a celebrity. Like they've been doing this since people who think that the hippies generation was totally natural and organic, it wasn't. It was literally, they decided what music you would hear, how that music would impact you. They wanted people LSD free, sex, rock and roll. And a part of that was creating like the Beatles. Like the Beatles is a perfect example. The Beatles was totally a psychological operation. Don't even get me started on that. But then just in the research that I've done of looking at Zelensky, for example, he's clearly not the leader of Ukraine. He's an actor, a literal actor who was trained,
who had a whole
likely
show
by the
about
CIA,
being the president of Ukraine before. It's like
and
programming.
then everywhere you look, they're all actors. Like Emmanuel Macron was an actor. He had no power. Anybody who has watched my Brigitte Macron series walks away and understands that he has never been in control. He was literally, this is why the Elon Musk thing is bothering me, because they just pretended that he had this like illustrious banking career, when in reality, David Rothschild just like held his hand up through everything, and he didn't even know what EBITDA stood for. He didn't even know what EBITDA stood for.
Your
And he was
series
working
on
for
that
the
blew my
biggest
mind.
Rothschild bank, okay? So they do this. It's a fact. Like the people who worked with Emmanuel Macron spoke out and said this. Like they faked his I'm saying SAT scores, but there was a just
like
to add this, if you
SAT?
haven't watched it. It's more like an MBA program that everyone goes through at in France, and it's basically like the cream of the crop go here. And 1 year, Emmanuel Macron, who was an absolute idiot and somehow got into this program after not being able to get to it for a while, somebody held his magic hand and put him in it. They got their test results back, and he was the top of the class, and the class revolted because he was an idiot. And they were like, these are fake results, fake results. So they canceled the exam results for the year for the first time ever. And then when Emmanuel Macron became president, he canceled the entire program. It's a massive blemish on his career. Imagine like Harvard sits for these exams, and the entire like class revolts because they're like, Obama came in number one. They're like, there's no way. He didn't know anything in class this entire time. You don't even know how he's in this school. That happened. Emmanuel Macron didn't know anything about banking. He didn't know anything about anything when he was at school, a part of this business program. And he was fake. He literally was installed as president of France with the Rothschilds behind him. So when you say something like that about Elon Musk, about the banking thing and potentially people just making his character, it does send a chill down my spine, because really I just feel like there aren't enough hours in the day. Yeah.
I mean, and the other obvious actor is Donald Trump, unfortunately. Like, I don't think, I still am of the mindset that Donald Trump is like his own bullheaded man that, is doing his own thing. He was raised in the business world. But I think that his own thing is closely aligned with enough of these people throughout his life that a lot of his incentive structures in his own soul are directly aligned with all these other people. And it's not so clear to me that he is America first in the way that Americans are America first.
So the reason why I always had such belief in Trump initially was because they hated him so much.
Exactly.
They made it very
100%.
hard for him. Like, you know, with Emmanuel Macron, the media loved him. They covered for him. They hit every blemish. Trump was the exact opposite in 2016. So I was very inclined to believe this was actually an America First movement. And they fought him tooth and nail every day of the first 4 years. Now, all of a sudden, things are different, you know, and everyone can feel that it's different, and people don't want to admit that it's different. Fine, if you really want to not acknowledge reality and what's happening. But it is true that I feel like everything changed the day that Miriam Adelson wrote that $100 million check to him.
Yep.
All right, well, if there are two things in life that are certain, it would be death and taxes. And now you might be able to add a third, because if you're with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, you could be saving a fortune every month by switching to Pure Talk. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, is cutting the fat from the wireless industry. For just $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data on America's most dependable 5G network. The average family of 4 saves over $1,000 a year when they switch to Pure Talk. That is,
you knew you were gonna do that.
Pocket. And with Pure Talk's customer service team, you can switch hassle-free.
Fucking shit, my fucking foot caught it.
Your phone number. Right now, go to puretalk.com/Owens to make the switch, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to start saving today. Pure Talk, wireless by Americans for Americans. Also reminding you guys about American financing, because interest rates have finally dropped. It is time to take advantage. A lot of Americans are struggling to keep up with everyday bills, the eggs, coffee, and you're reaching for the credit cards to pay for a lot of this. Well, if you're a homeowner, interest rates have fallen into the 5s. That's nearly a quarter of the average credit card rate.
Right,
American Financing is helping homeowners like you save an average of $800 a month by tapping into your home's equity and wiping out high interest debt. And the best part is that there are no upfront fees to get started.
And
credit card
always,
rates are currently insane.
They're always falling
If
at
you're
lost.
carrying around a balance every month and you're stuck in an endless cycle, you can break free today by calling American Financing and seeing how much you could be saving. If you start now, you may even be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. So call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. That's AmericanFinancing.net/Owens.
Yeah, and it can be very depressing to think this way. And I actually don't take that perspective. I think it's highly encouraging, because the world was always this way. The world was always controlled. We were always being fed celebrities. We were always running blackmail schemes. There was always all this horrible sexual criminality going on towards children. All these things have always existed. And in many cases, they were way darker, like 500 years ago. And it's not like, it's really depressing to read about the actual criminal underbelly of the world, you know, from 50 years and beyond. But now we just know about it. And that is deeply enlightening, and that is deeply encouraging, because we're at this transformative time when AI is coming. Robots are coming. Like the decentralization of media and all of our power systems through our phones to be able to be in this world and making a difference.
Total piece of
It's
metal.
here, and it's coming. And
All
it's actually really encouraging to me that we all get to take part in it, and we all get to have a say. And that's why I keep coming back to this decentralized versus centralized. Is decentralization is like the American ideal. We all have a voice, we all have a vote, and we all can influence our country and our world together. And all of their systems, all these control systems, these political systems, these blackmail systems, they're from an age when it was all centralized, and they controlled the media, and they controlled the newspapers, and they controlled the radio. We have been watching them stumble over trying to adapt these old strategies and these old operations and programs to this new era. And many of them have been bungled and been exposed, like Jeffrey Epstein, for example. One of Whitney Webb's primary criticisms of my representation of her work that was a good criticism was that I have focused a lot on Jeffrey Epstein in the earlier days and the old school blackmail and the sort of in-person blackmail he was running. But over the last decade, especially of his life, he was trying to transition into technology and to getting access to the technocrats and getting into digital blackmail. And he was funding projects like these Palantir-style projects. Carbine 911 is a good example, where suddenly you don't even need blackmail operations because you've got everyone addicted to porn and you've got them all on this weird next thing that AI is putting in front of their faces. And so suddenly all you need to do is have access to their computers and their phones, and most people are immoral anyways and don't follow God because they've demonized God pretty dang good. And so they're trying their best to race to adapt those old systems, and I think in a lot of cases they're not capable of doing it. But they are powerful systems, and we do need to be careful. We do need to talk about it, because I think that a lot, like, we live in this bubble of thinkers. We live with an audience of intelligent people that want to know more about the world, but the vast majority of Americans are still like, what did Sexy Red do today? Like, oh my gosh, I love Sexy Red.
It's actually so funny because I've always just instinctually known that pornography is a blackmail operation. It's common sense to me that if you want to, basically, they're becoming the tastemakers, it's becoming more and more deranged what they're offering, right? So you get everybody on Pornhub, and you first have like relations between men and women.
That's why I don't watch porn.
Off, and then you make it more and more and more perverted and deranged.
Right.
And you know that addiction in their mind, they're looking as they're watching porn for more and more and more aggressive and deranged porn, and then you've got them, right? You've got their IP address, and this person you now know is looking at this kind of porn. And so when you take a look at who is owning porn, and you look at the connections there, you go, okay, this is obviously in and of itself a blackmail operation. And that's why I say to men, don't watch porn. You shouldn't watch porn. You're not in my world, because I'm Catholic and you're not allowed to. But if you need if you're a person who's like, I need a less theological reason, well, I'm telling you, it's because you're going to get blackmailed. Like, the porn is not here. And I think about how weird it was that in school they were telling us it's healthy to watch porn.
That is so
Think
bizarre.
about how weird it is to
So
reflect on
messed
that.
up.
Like, it's like, oh no, it's healthy for men to watch porn once in a while, and telling you like it's okay. Why would the school do that? Why would the school be telling you to watch pornography?
For the exact same reason why they would be telling boys that they can become girls, and girls that they can become boys, right? And this is a message directly to men. So if you can't get behind the theological reasoning for it, and you can't get behind the blackmail reasoning for it because you don't think you're ever going to be important enough, get behind the success reason for it. Because pornography deeply kills your drive for success, and it deeply disconnects you from the world, and it deeply disconnects you from your masculinity and your testosterone systems.
Yes.
And when you're watching porn, you
Preach,
are just sedated.
Ian,
You're naturally sedated, and I understand. Like, I grew up in the generation that porn was put in front of our faces, and our parents had no understanding of what it was and what was happening. And most people in my generation saw their first pornography like at age 8 or 11, like at their friend's house. And so everyone in the millennial generation sort of had to find their own way through that narrative, and almost no one escaped. But it is on us to escape from it, and to realize that if you let yourself stay in that hole, that will forever tarnish your relationships with women. And you will never be able to know the true depth of happiness that you can have when you like start a family and love your wife and raise children and be a good role model. And it's so pervasive today, and so many people are deep in that pit, or even just a little bit in that pit, because it's no big deal, that if you don't watch it, you are in the top 0.01% of men inherently. And that's in terms of how your brain works, in terms of how your body works, in terms of your testosterone, all these things. And it's just the most obvious, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult for men, I think, and especially some of the most capable men have and same with women. It's like the most capable women, the most beautiful women, the women that understand how to manipulate the systems the best. They're the ones that are like, why wouldn't I engage in these behaviors? Why wouldn't I make free money? Like, I don't even need to show this stuff. I can just do this stuff, and I'll make $1 million. But it is subversive in every way, not just politically and blackmail, but also just culturally, and dividing families and dividing what makes the soul of America.
And they've intentionally introduced it everywhere. And there is I'm sorry, but a direct corollary from when they took the Bible out of the classroom. That was all very intentional. Understand, you should go back and learn in history who pushed for that to happen. You have the 60s generation. The reason the CIA was doing this was because they wanted to crush Christian culture. I mean, explicitly, there's a guy. What is his name? I think it's Al Goldstein. You gotta pull up this Wikipedia, Skylar. If you could pull up Al Goldstein on Wikipedia, explicitly said, like, we created pornography because we hate Christ. This is the literal quote. It's so crazy to read this. Here it is. It's, quote, the only reason that Jews are in pornography is that we think that Christ sucks. Catholicism sucks. We don't believe in authoritarianism. Pornography thus becomes a way of defiling Christian culture, and as it penetrates the very heart of the American mainstream, and is no doubt consumed by those very same wasps, its subversive character becomes more charged, end quote. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Like, whoa.
100%.
Like, it's like, take it to the bank. We created pornography because we hate Christ. And it's on Wikipedia. This is not like a conspiracy theory. And so this guy says this, and you go to yourself, okay, everything that is happening is antichrist, right? So we know that as Catholics, You're not supposed, you keep your families together. You're supposed to save your virginity. We don't believe in birth control. Everything that's happening now is counter to Christ culture. It's literally anti-Christ, okay? And so you examine that and you go, okay, now they're telling kids, like, yeah, no, you can have you should have multiple partners. Like, this is all about like sex, freedom,
dating and hookup culture.
No, pornography. It's totally natural and healthy for you to
watch it together.
I mean,
good for your
weird
relationship.
what we learned. It's good for your relationship. It's the exact opposite for your relationship. And they've introduced pornography. Just to be clear, we always talk about hardcore pornography and Pornhub, but it's everywhere. And I never realized until my husband said, I was like, why don't you want to be on social media? He's like, because it's all softcore porn.
Yeah.
He's like, you turn on, you open the news, you're reading the Daily Mail, and suddenly you have some woman's butt cheeks in your face. You are on Twitter, and it's offering you people porn. Women just dress this way. And he's like, men are hardwired. They're selling a bag. They're like, okay, I can't just sell a Santa's cup. I have to also be halfway naked and then do this. Why? Why can't you just say, hey, if you want to support the show, go to Tesla? They can't do it because they're actually making pornography. It's something that it's almost impossible for men who are hardwired towards that stuff to resist. And there's a true evil in that, because I recognize that in Japan, it's nowhere. I did not realize how strange it is that every commercial in America is sexual until I went to Japan, where their whole thing is like make everything cute, like, you know, so like if you're gonna sell, it has to be like Muppet talking. And I looked around and I went, there's no billboards, there's no boobs, there's no ass. What's going on? There is a lot of repressed weird sexuality in Japan. There definitely is. And that's a whole other category. But it is like, because this is a global force, and who knows who's behind it. But there is a global force kind of pushing for these things, because when you separate families, when you divide cultures and nations, and like the things that keep us tight together, when you divide all that, you're so much more easily controlled, more easily depressed, more easily medicated, more lonely, and in need of the government to give us things to satiate us, and to just, you know, pass the time and to make life bearable while we go to work every day. And you're on the point of like sort of how sex has always sold and it's getting more and more overt, but there's this other aspect that I've been noticing, and it's OnlyFans. And that OnlyFans, at first, it was so easy for people to paint it as like this great thing where they're going to empower the creators and they're going to make the porn industry safer, and they're going to like let the women be in control. And then OnlyFans started doing PG content, where they would take porn stars and OnlyFans creators and they would have them do normal TV shows. And this is happening right now. So it's like a travel show or like a cooking show, but it's like a porn star doing a cooking show. So that then you can have this porn star on TV, on mainstream daytime television, and you can have your 5-year-old, your 8-year-old, your 12-year-old watching a porn star cook food, and it's totally normal. And that is like subversion 101, is start to just blur the lines more and get more and more people, make it normalized, make it part of culture and society, in the exact same way that LGBTQIA+ is just trying to bleed into our schools and into our like as though it's just normal. And I pray that we are waking up in time, because for me it was this learning. It was programs like yours and learning about how subversive all this is and how hard the devil seems to be working to weed its way into everything. That's what got me to think about the Bible in the first place. And I'm still on my own journey trying to figure that out, trying to figure out what I believe. But I was raised with no religion, and it was learning about how evil some of these people are and how they are directly trying to subvert Christian religion. That's what got me to be like, that's weird. I wonder what's on the other side of that debate. That's exactly right. It's when you start to realize how overtly they are trying to just attack everything, every pillar of Christianity, that you go, this can't just keep being a coincidence. Like which means that since they're doing this under a web of lies, that they know that this is the truth. Yeah. They want to detach people from that reality. They want to detach people from understanding that, you know, you have a creator, you have one creator, and you have a soul. And the stuff that you are doing actually matters. Instead, they want people believing in tech, in worshiping tech. Tech is going to get you to the next level. I'm like, I don't know what this is. You think you're recreating like the tree of life, and you think that people are going to come and worship the tech lords, and you're going to be able to basically dominate earth and you guys are gonna become God, but it doesn't work for me. And I'm not interested in a brain chip in my brain. I don't want to drive your electric car. I want my families to stay together. I want to be able to make decisions. I want to be able to criticize someone. I want the right to hate somebody because of their race, okay? I want to be able to be like, yeah, you know what? I do hate white people. You know what? Because I can say that because I'm in America and that's totally fine for me to say.
And as a white person, I should have the spine to be like, cool, I'm not I don't care. Whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't hurt me.
No, and trying to criminalize, that was what was really trippy for me, was them at the exact same time that they're trying to train us to believe that speech is violence, they're also trying to train us to believe that actual violence is not violence.
Yes.
So it's like a bunch of Palestinian kids being blown up. That, how dare you comment and say that that's wrong? That is understandable violence. And then it's like Kanye tweets something and it's like, oh my gosh, no, every person must make a statement and condemn him for his speech violence. That could really be really bad. And I'm more awake than that, you know? And I know how important it is to protect speech, because otherwise you will get a government that is doing demented and demonic things and you will not be able to question that government. And I feel that we are inching closer to that. And it pains me to say that I don't feel that guardrails have been set up under Trump, who I have supported for 8 years. It pains me to say, but I now feel that he has just allowed his administration to run things and is not doing what I put him in office to do, or at least not prioritizing what I put him in office to do.
They had a very clear mandate coming in, and it was America first in every sense of the word. And the deportation stuff has been a huge mess, right? Like, so much of the government, getting the government uncorrupted, kind of been a mess. Some of it's been great. It's been easy to paint it on Twitter and get lots of views for, promoting his last thing that he cut, or the last thing that he, uncovered and exposed, which a lot of that Doge stuff was actually publicly available. Like, a lot of that was already out there. And at the same time, the real Israel first bent to it all is scary. And the JD Vance Peter Thiel connection, where JD Vance is getting propped up as 2028 presidential run kind of material, is scary, because JD Vance is very skilled, and I've really enjoyed everything he said on camera. He is an excellent public speaker, and his debate was amazing, and I didn't know anything about him beforehand. And he's very good at what he does. But when you actually research how he came up and how he got put into that position, who funded him all the way up, it just looks like they're setting us up for 2028 to be the next step down this road, and trying to keep themselves positioned as the good guys. Is they need us to be on their team, right behind them on team victory all the way.
Well, the reality is that American sentiments are shifting, and it's not going to be enough. I don't think propping up people is enough anymore. I think people are very much awake to what's happening, and that's what terrifies them. That's why they're running this operation, COINTELPRO 2 and Chaos 2, trying to make people not believe in us and make us think that we're the ones that are sold out. And by the way, I do want to say this too, their strategies are laughable. They're so boomer cringe. The woke right trying to keep pretending and confusing what woke, everyone knows it's you. And they spend hours on Twitter. This is what the real woke right is. This is what the real woke, anybody who doesn't like Israel is the woke right. So guys, we all know who it is. Okay, you can create an entire liturgy of woke right. We're awake. We know it's you. We know it's you. Never-ending wars. Especially when Meghan McCain tried to weigh in. I'm like, no, guys, this is way too obvious.
You don't want her on your team.
Yeah, their strategies now are we're gonna criminalize just asking questions. I'm like, this is such a bad idea. I'm watching their PR from afar, and I'm just like, guys, you're not winning anybody. You're just not winning anybody with this, and they can't stop themselves. The Babylon Bees' brains are broken over there, and they've aged out. I think they just aged out of PR and understanding what Gen Z is, and understanding how the millennial sentiment, and they're just kind of engaging in really weird PR tactics of we're going to issue a report on Christ is King. I'm going, guys, what are you doing? No one is falling for this right now.
I mean, you said they've aged out. I would argue that they have truthed out, in the sense that the decentralized media has opened all of us up, so they can't control what everyone's seeing and hearing anymore. And the truth is so powerful. And, you might say God is so powerful, because so there's this quote I always come back to, and I heard it from Ryan Dawson first, but it might have been older than that. And it was that a lie needs to be spoken 1,000 times to be believed, the truth only once, right? And it's because you need to just hammer that into people, but the truth just spreads itself, because everyone has a brain, everyone has a soul, everyone instinctively does hear God deep down inside of them, that in their own heart, telling them what's true. And when you hear truth, you know it, right? And I think that they're doing everything they can to divorce people from truth, divorce people from God, divorce people from each other, and then fill their alone time with garbage. Because it's when you're alone that it's just you and God. It's just you and your soul, right? And if you can't be alone, that can't have a night alone at home without drinking or smoking or watching porn or doing all these other things. And it's like, I'm not judging you. I have no, I'm not a perfect person throughout my life either. But if you aren't the kind of person that can just be with yourself, that can just read a book and be at peace, can be with your own thoughts and be at peace, that is their goal, is to stop us from being able to do that, to stop us from believing in who we are and being able to connect as real human to human, which is what MAGA is all about. MAGA is all about getting back to being healthy humans that have healthy habits, that have healthy relationships, that build a strong country and community, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And you are right. I think that is what it is their lies just seem louder and more erratic now than they've ever been. And they just fear more people telling the truth. And they also seem angry. That you can sense they're losing control because we're all so happy and we're sharing the stuff and we're excited that we're learning outside of the public education system and we're recommending books and we're admitting when we get something wrong.
It's crazy.
And they're just hitting people with utter arrogance and definitions and this is what this is and you will be this and you will be called names. And I think they know.
Yeah.
They know that.
Sucks to be on a losing team.
It does. Like, it's like they can see it. They know it's over. They know that they're losing control and they're just kind of becoming undone.
Oh.
And you're right. That is the power.
That's what Phil.
That is what I have always maintained through last year to now is just, when I say Christ is king, you can't defeat truth, you know? The truth, the light, the way. There's nothing you can do to stop this. You're just, and watching them come apart, I can't deny the fact that it's been entertaining. It's been so entertaining of being like, oh wow, the truth really upsets you that much that you're just gonna keep screaming. And I guess let's maybe write 30 more articles about Ian Carroll and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. Let's see if we can get 50 more out today on your reporter group chat, coming every which way, and it does nothing to diminish our platforms because people do know truth when they hear it.
It only elevates them.
Yeah.
It only helps magnify the truth.
Yeah, I think that's like actually an amazing place to end. Ian, what's next for you? Because you are now under fire. I love watching what you're going through because I remember like when I first got caught a little bit of fire and then like every which direction people were just making stuff up. I've heard you're everything from like in the Mossad to Adolf Hitler.
Yep.
Which is
everything in between.
Which one is true?
I'm funded by Madagascar, actually. I didn't want to... The news leaked that Madagascar had so much tariffs, and so now it's kind of out there, but I'm actually quite poor, and my plan is to start taking my job a lot more seriously and being more effective, because through all the slings and arrows, through the crazy rise I've had, and through I've purposely not actually gotten very much money because I didn't want to work with big companies. I didn't want to take brand deals, and I still don't. I want to do my own thing my own way. And through all this madness, I've seen how messy the like Twitter sphere can get, how messy the online kind of back and forth can get. And so I've been really inspired by people like you that are more on their own train of thought and more doing their own digs and their own research and just staying in that lane and not getting distracted by all the noise. And so I'm trying to focus more on YouTube and more on the products and the corporation stuff along the side too. There's a whole other thing coming out around that I'll be talking about in the next month or so, and just do my own thing and sort
metal
of like,
shavings in my fucking
you're
fingers.
right that we're all so happy, and it's because we have things that we're working on that matter, that mean something to us, that fill our life with meaning. And I think that's the best indicator of, are you on the right path, is are you doing things that fill your life with meaning, that even while the world is burning all around you, you still know that you and your family are on the right path. And I'm on it, and I feel it, and I love it, and it's amazing. And I'm just getting better and better at honing in on what is that path and keeping all the other noise out. So,
do you have a way that people can subscribe and support?
Yeah. They can follow me on X at Ian Carroll's Show. And I have a new website that is a part of this new direction I'm going, which is canceliancarroll.com, which is where I've moved all the merch to, so I don't have to deal with my own merch anymore. I got a company helping me with that. And that is the best place to follow along for more updates, because there are more updates coming. My YouTube channel as well, I'll be doing a lot more on that, and that is Cancel Ian Carroll on YouTube. Okay, and if you guys are on YouTube, we'll link all of this in the description so that you can follow him, and we'll also pin it on the top of comments so you can follow him. You know, we just have to recognize our own power, you guys, and I think it's amazing. Like, I always want to leave you guys an optimistic note, because
as like I said, when we're seeing this stuff falling apart and we're seeing independent voices come to the top and we're seeing the old guard kind of try to say that these voices are funded, it should excite you. You should know that it means that they're scared and that they're on the run and that the old systems are failing for a reason. And ultimately, like the sweatshirt I'm wearing today, Christ is king, guys. We are going to win this thing by recognizing that ultimately what they've been fighting is the truth of the Bible. I really do see it. It is a spiritual war that is upon us, and left and right. We need to stay together and not allow them to pull us apart again. It's the number one thing that they fear, is us recognizing who the true enemy is, and it isn't your average American.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, you can head to CandaceOwens.com to continue to support our work. You've already done a tremendous job supporting me in my independent career, and I appreciate you because I was terrified stepping out on my own. It is a terrifying thing, but I knew that it was the right thing to do, and I hope the exact same thing for Ian. He's been amazing. If you've been following his journey, he's under attack. I love it. He's going to be fine. I'm not even worried about him. I laugh at the attacks on him, and we will see you guys on Monday.
You got this. You got this. You totally, scrotally got this. Okay. the colors to the ground. Perfect. Okay. Now, all that mess. Worry about that later. Okay. Oh God. Now I can start putting my yarn away maybe. Now that the ceiling is done.
Well, ask Steve-O how it all turned out when he tried to use my name for clout, because girl, Adam 16 Grand Mason, every person who allowed Lima Ivanovich to lie about me on their platform has done nothing but go downhill ever since that exact very moment. And yet again, we have another announcement to make. Another announcement to make over here. Adam 1622 of National Grand Mason has been sued. Yes, he has been sued by former employees, plural, more than one, for sexual harassment. I do have the lawsuit right here, and I do want to go over it briefly with y'all, but I just can't help but remember 2 short years ago, where Adam 1622 Grand Mason allowed someone to go onto his platform who had filed a frivolous, malicious lawsuit full of lies on his podcast. Do you remember that? And he was talking about the Lyft driver's family and all of that. Remember all of that? Yeah. And then I was like, wait, that's not fair. I mean, I didn't know Adam Grand Mason 16 from Adam, no pun intended. I didn't know him. I'd never heard of this podcast even until he put my ops on. He was talking about, with the devil. He was talking about women like me should be locked up. That's what he said. Women like me should be locked up. That's what he said. So, either he did sexually harass these people or he didn't. If he did, good for him getting sued. If he didn't, isn't that karma? Because at the time, I did not know this man from Adam. I did not know him. But whenever I saw that he had millions of subscribers and he let Lima Ivanovich go on there and lie about me and talk about there's a lawsuit pending and all of that, he allowed lies about me to be spread on his platform, and I reached out to him, believe it or not, yes I did, and I said, wait a second, if you're going to let her, if you care about this drama so much, if you're going to let her come on there and lie, then you should let me come on there and correct the record. Do you know what he told me? No. He said, I don't take you seriously. I'm going to let somebody come on my platform with millions of subscribers and lie about you, and I'm going to allow them to boost their fake, fraudulent, full of lies lawsuit. I'm going to say that people like you should be locked up. And then I'm not going to let you correct the record. Now, immediately, literally the next day or 2 days after, I rescinded the offer to come on his podcast because I started to realize and figure out and learn that when people go on his podcast, sometimes they die, they don't make it long. So I didn't want to go around there. Good choice on my part. Ask Adam 22 how it all turned out. Because not only has he been sued, he put out a video yesterday. The title of the video is No Jumper is Going Broke. Now, obviously, I'm such a trendsetter. I mean, how many years ago did I do this camouflage hoodie merch? Now everybody and their mama got camouflage hoodies on. How long ago did I do that? Really, seriously, how long ago did I do that? It was a long time ago. If you were one of the people who got that merch, good for you, because we're not making it no more. I mean, all our merch is limited edition. We do have another one dropping soon. Anyway, I'm 2216 Grand Mason's going broke, and before we get into this lawsuit, I did just want to kind of give my thoughts on that real quick. I do think he's going broke in some sense, but I don't think he's going broke in other senses. Once you start hiring talent, renting buildings, hiring assistants, managers, this thing, that thing, other thing, it starts to get just very far ahead of you. Now, I mean, some people are speculating that Adam 1622 Grand Mason was only ever going to be in LA and have that building set up in LA for as long as he was doing his Fed operations. Now, I'm not the one who's proposing the proposition. Okay, that's what I've seen people suspect. That's not really what I suspect. I mean, listen, my mind is open, okay, but what I actually think is he needs to fire some people. He needs to get rid of some people, either because they're on his nerves, they're degenerates, they're dead weight, or they're literally just like making him go broke. I think he needs to fire some people, but he doesn't know how to do that without like offending people. There's probably some like LA politics, if you know what I mean, going on as well. So if he's like, look, I just have to fire everybody, they gotta restructure. But in his Adam 1622 Grand Mason is Going Broke video, he specifically titled the video, No Jumper is Going Broke. So I do think that's interesting. Some people have speculated, even in the comments of that video, that the reason that he's doing this video is so that he doesn't have to pay out whatever he loses in this lawsuit. So what's being alleged in the lawsuit? We do have Riley Garcia and Yuri, Ellen, I don't know. I don't know these people. I know y'all know these people. I don't watch the Degenerate show, okay? The only time I hear about any of this stuff is whenever there's a lawsuit, there's something going on in the media, there's something going on viral, he's doing something crazy. I mean, I cannot watch the shit. I cannot even stand to look at some of these people on the show for very long, okay? But anyway, this guy Yuri, suing No Jumper, Adam Grand Mason. Oh, why do y'all seem to think I just made that name up? That is his real last name. I'm just saying it for fun. I mean, it is kind of fun because, I mean, how appropriate, but like, that is his name. Look at it. Grand Mason. That's what it says right there. The grandest of the Masons. Okay, anyway. So, Riley Garcia. Okay, so look, what does it say? Complaint for damages for sexual harassment. That's what it says on the lawsuit right there. Look at that. Also suing Josh Mannheim, Nicholas Hyams, and Doe's 1 through 50. Okay, so a lot of defendants. So the first one is just like, okay, what is No Jumper? Owns and operates YouTube channels, podcasts. Adam Grand Mason is in California.
Oh, damn it, you can't say it.
So No Jumper.
I just put these two baskets on the side of the thing that's going to hold all the...
So they're just kind of...
No, I did not get the leaks figured out. I'm just going to have to tarp the roof until I can get up there and caulk. I should have been caulking today, but I'm moving, so...
The true names of the does. Okay, so the first cause of action is a breach of contract, and that is the employment contract. There existed an express, oral, and implied in fact term in the employment contract that everybody would perform their legal obligations to prevent harassment, discrimination, retaliation, and to adequately investigate harassment, discrimination, or retaliation. There were several written documents. Despite the representations made to plaintiffs and the reliance they placed on them, the company defendant, that's Adam 1622 Grand Mason, and them, failed to carry out their responsibilities under the terms of the employment contracts in the following ways. By wrongfully harassing plaintiffs, by wrongfully discriminating against plaintiffs, by wrongfully retaliating against plaintiffs, failing to prevent harassment and discrimination, wrongfully terminating. So they're saying they got fired wrongfully, both of them. But even though Yuri, he is actually the one who left, there is this legal designation called constructive termination, which is where the employer makes the working environment just so hellish and so horrible and so just terrible for the person. They just have to quit. They just have to. Everybody in that situation would have quit or whatever type of thing, right? So that's what Yuri is saying. But then Garcia is saying she got wrongfully fired, like straight up fired, Riley Garcia. So they're saying the contracts were breached because they got fired. Then there is the breach of implied covenant of good faith. This is like every contract is supposed to have this underlying, unspoken, obvious understanding that both parties are going to enter into the contract with good faith and also perform their duties under the contract with good faith. It's just like an unwritten rule, and it will be read into contracts even if it's not written in there. Okay, so then we get to the third cause of action, and that is the harassment. I think this is where the bulk of the serious claims really are. Plaintiff Garcia, Riley Garcia, is a female, Hispanic American female, and Yuri is a male. Such defendants engaged in the following actions with the intent of harassing plaintiffs on account of their and or gender. The harassment included but is not limited to the following: discussing plaintiff Riley Garcia having relations on defendant's YouTube stream. Okay, so when I read this, I'm actually very surprised. I'm actually very, very surprised that nobody who has worked for this man before has sued him for S harassment, because the channel, the platform itself seems to be so inundated with not only gang-related discussions, but also corn and relations, if you know what I mean. It's like literally all it is. It's like gangs and gags. And it's like, I've thought this before, whenever they're all talking about just so openly and so brazenly. Like, Adam, oh, gotta go shoot a porn. I gotta go. I was having my bleep bleep with my wife. It's like, it feels like he got a little bit too comfortable talking like that around employees. Like, he is their boss and he is the employer. So what else are they alleging they're accusing him of, other than talking about Riley Garcia having relations on the YouTube stream, posting photographs of her butt on the Reddit page? Like, that in and of itself, those two things are like pretty rough. If you're gonna try to escape actual allegations as the boss. What else is being alleged? Threatening to fight Yuri on defendant's YouTube stream, doxing plaintiffs on defendant's YouTube stream, live streaming outside of where plaintiffs live, falsely accusing Yuri of stalking Riley on defendant's podcast, posting photographs of where these people live on Reddit, posting about defendants fighting and or pew plaintiffs, posting that Riley Garcia had an abortion, posting plaintiff Yuri's phone number on Reddit, harassing Riley Garcia by posting about her employment after No Jumper, posting false statements about Riley Garcia and a corn actor. Again, like, these are serious allegations if you're trying to overcome a sexual harassment employment lawsuit.
They were working just fine a minute ago.
Should have never had that on your channel. Should have never let somebody come and say they're false, fake lawsuit allegations on your channel. Karma is an angel, really. People say karma's a B word. No, she's not.
It was literally just working. Now I have to go and do this all over again.
Posting obscenities and derogatory comments and sexually insulting comments about plaintiffs. Posting comments accusing plaintiffs of crimes, making posts encouraging others to injure plaintiffs, and posting false statements about plaintiffs' work for defendants. Garcia was terminated March 2023 after she complained about the sexual harassment. So she's saying, I complained about all this overcharged sexual harassment, all this stuff, and as a result, I was fired.
I emotionally can't handle something not working right now.
The harassment, discrimination, and retaliation, and he had to quit. He did that a few months later. So she quit last year, March 2023, or she was fired last year, March 2023, and she says it was in retaliation out of the sexual harassment. But also, Yuri then, 4 months later, then he quit. There's another harassment claim as the fourth cause of action, and then they just lay out the rest of their causes of action here and each and every law and statute that they believe was broken, and then slander. Look at this. A year ago, plaintiffs enjoyed good reputations, both generally and in their occupations. From at least March 2023 to present, defendants, that's Adam 2216, Graham Mason, and all of them, made false statements to others in person and on podcasts. See, I know firsthand that Adam 1622 Grand Mason will allow this to happen because he did it to me. Yes, he does. And then whenever I tried to correct the record, he said no, because I don't take you seriously. Again, y'all, I would never go on that podcast. I would never go to that building. I have no desire. I don't want to. But apparently, according to this lawsuit, the defendants made false statements to others in person and on podcasts and on YouTube, accusing Yuri of stalking Riley on defendant's podcast, posted false statements about Riley and a corn actor, posted comments accusing plaintiffs of crimes, posted false statements about her work. The cited above are libelous on their face. It clearly exposes plaintiffs to hatred, contempt, ridicule, and obloquy. They were injured in their business or trade, and now they're ashamed and they have hurt feelings and mortification. So these are the two that they are really honing in on. So this comes from September 2024, and this is where they're saying, look, it's defamation or libel or slander, whatever, per se, because of these two things. The accusation of stalking, because that's accusing someone of a crime, and the accusation that Riley engaged in sexual activity with a corn actor. So it's being argued that this is defamation per se. I did not see this, so it's going to make a big difference what was actually said. Because if somebody said, Yuri stalked her, yes, he did, that is a statement as if it is a fact. But if somebody said, I don't know, to me it kind of looks like maybe it's stalking, that is not a statement of fact. That is a statement of an opinion, and you are allowed to state an opinion. What ends up being an issue is whenever you say something as if it is certain, as if it definitely happened, instead of saying, oh, what it looks like to me, or in my opinion, or, saying like, look, this person hasn't been convicted, innocent until proven guilty, but from the definition, it looks like it is going to come down in this particular case of Adam 2216 Glenn Mason. What was actually said, and did Adam actually say it? Did Adam take any steps to remedy it being said, etc.? So the two big per se things are like if you accuse somebody of a crime, or you accuse somebody of an infamous disease or an infamous sexual proclivity, like calling someone an sexual predator, as offender, something like that, without saying, in my opinion, or because he did something to me, or something like to soften it. If you just say something as a fact, and it is something that says someone committed a crime in fact, that can be considered defamation per se. Defamation per se, you don't have to prove specific damages, but you still have to prove actual malice. I don't know if these people would count as public figures. I mean, all these questions are going to come up. But yeah, these two highlighted parts are the parts that they're saying are the defamation per se. They're false, they're defamatory, they're understood in a way that hurt and harmed the plaintiffs, defamed them. This was not a privileged communication. So this is not something that's protected by the First Amendment freedom of speech, because the defendants published it with personal animosity, hatred, and ill will. Okay. Here's the thing. Personal animosity, hatred, and ill will, it doesn't matter. You can hate someone and say something hateful about them. That doesn't matter. What matters is this next part. Knowledge it was false, without any reasonable grounds to believe it was true. They're going to have to prove that. And I gotta be honest, as much as I want to be on their side, I gotta be honest, it's really hard, really difficult to win a defamation case in the state of California. Very difficult. Actually, indeed, these people could be on the hook for Adam 1622 Grand Mason's legal fees. If he were to file back, I think the deadline may have passed already for him to file back, but if he were to file back an anti-SLAPP motion, which I'm shocked he didn't, I mean, these people could be on the hook for his attorney fees. Okay, so it's very difficult to win a defamation or a libel suit in California. But this isn't just a defamation or a libel suit. This is also an employment suit, which deals with sexual harassment. So this is different probably than a lot of typical anti-SLAPP, freedom of speech type things. They're also suing for invasion of privacy by public disclosure of private facts. This is also going to be very difficult for them to win. The invasion of privacy by public disclosure of private facts is only going to be able to be successful if there were indeed private facts that Adam 2216 Grand Mason had in the capacity of being their employer and then using that information to invade their privacy. They don't even say what it is. So in this section, I don't think this is even pled specifically enough for them to get past like a motion to dismiss, because there's no, how can it be a disclosure of a private fact if it is defamatory? So like, for example, what I mean is, let's take that corn example, right? Oh, Riley had relations with a corn actor. That's the so-called defamatory statement, right? Because it's not true. Well, if it's not true, how could it be a private fact? Or Yuri stalked her. That's the other allegation, right? They're saying Yuri stalked Riley. Someone said that, and that was false, so that therefore it's defamatory. Well, how could it be a fact if it's not true? Maybe they're talking about addresses, but look, in here they don't say it. Look, knowingly and without their consent, invaded their right to privacy by the facts alleged above, informed and believed. There were public disclosures to a number of people. Private facts were publicly disclosed. Which facts? They didn't even say like, oh, it was my address. It was my kid's school or whatever. I mean, they said stuff up there, but under this cause of action, they don't give anything specific. So I think that if I'm Adam 1622 Grand Mason, I would file a motion to dismiss the whole thing on anti-SLAPP grounds. Then I would also file a motion to dismiss, a motion to strike on anti-SLAPP grounds. But then I also, if that didn't work, I would file a motion to dismiss on the fact that this is not specifically pled. They didn't actually, this particular cause of action, they didn't give enough facts upon which to actually base a claim. The 13th cause of action is false light. Again, difficult to win in California. The false light invasion is pretty much a second attempt at a defamation claim. So if you've already sued someone for defamation and you lost, it's almost impossible that you're going to win on this false light thing. But look, they do at least give some type of evidence on this count. They say from at least July 2023, defendants knowingly and without plaintiff's prior valid consent invaded the right to privacy by the acts alleged above. Oh, no, they don't. I think this is an inartfully drafted complaint. I don't know how experienced this lawyer is. Intentional or reckless interference with protected person, economic relationships. So this is kind of like that thing that Justin Baldoni is suing Ryan Reynolds for, like interfering with a contract you had. Again, I don't think that nuisance, they're not going to win on that. Okay, so a lot of these are kind of like, it looks like they just threw it all at the wall, which makes me kind of like, they want a temporary restraining order prohibiting defendants from harassing and terrorizing them. We'll have to see how it turns out. I mean, obviously, if these allegations are true, shame on Adam 2216 Graham Mason. That's horrible. As much as I dislike the man personally, and as much as I dislike, him in general and what he stands for on his podcast and the topics he discusses and stuff, you are allowed freedom of speech in this country. He's allowed to talk about what he wants to talk about. And I'm just personally entirely too traumatized, harmed by false allegations made in lawsuits that I can't even fully be like, Adam 2216 Graham Mason finally getting what he gets. But I will say, do these allegations seem difficult for me to believe? No, they don't. I believe them. I believe them. But ultimately, I mean, I wasn't there, and I don't know what these other people were doing in the back end, behind the scenes, to maybe stuff like that. I do know people make false allegations in lawsuits. I tried to tell Adam 2216 Graham Mason that myself 2-3 years ago. He won't listen to me. He don't want to listen to me. So now I guess, now he gets to learn. Now, am I saying the allegations in the lawsuit are false? No, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't even watch these people. I don't know who these people are. But in the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Neither are opinions. Scroll. Let me communicate. Bye. Well, we are about 2 months away from the Diddy trial, and it is heating up. Diddy is demanding that certain victims be named in court, and the feds are fighting back. Let's discuss. So here is the docket for the United States versus Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. And as you can see, the most recent filing was from yesterday, Friday, March 21st, 2025, and it is a motion addressed to the judge about the pretrial schedule. Now, there are two major things that Diddy and the feds are in disagreement over. One of them has to do with expert witnesses, and one issue has to do with so-called alleged victims, and whether or not they are going to be named, or whether they are going to be able to have a pseudonym like Victim 1 or Jane Doe 1, etc. So I did purchase the filing. Let me pull it up. Dated as of yesterday, Friday, March 21st. Dear Judge, the government, that's the feds, respectfully submit this letter regarding two issues relating to the court's pre-trial schedule that have arisen in the above referenced matter. Number one, expert notice. The court ordered the parties to provide expert notice on the following schedule. Okay, so this was what the judge had said previously. The government was ordered to provide notice on their expert witnesses to Diddy and them on March 7th. Diddy and them then were supposed to turn around and provide notice of their rebuttal witnesses. So you know how like sometimes there will be an expert witness who's like an expert in a certain mental disorder or a certain health disorder or whatever, and then the other side, they'll have their witness too to kind of argue back against that first witness, vice versa. Well, that second witness is called a rebuttal witness. So the government, the feds, they were supposed to tell Diddy and them on March 7th what their expert witnesses they were going to call, etc. One of the experts they were going to call had to do with human trafficking. So then Diddy and them had to provide their notice for their expert witnesses a week later, which was March 14th, and then a rebuttal notice was scheduled for yesterday. So they had to give notice that they were going to have one of those witnesses. Okay, that was yesterday. And then the government said, okay, well, we did what we were supposed to do. March 7th, we gave expert notice to the defense. On March 18th, so just this past week, the parties engaged in a meet and confer. That's when the lawyers on both sides get together to discuss scheduling and different little logistic stuff. So this week, March 18th, they got together and engaged in one of these meet and confers, during which Diddy's counsel informed the feds that it's going to provide notice by March 21st of a rebuttal expert. So the rebuttal notice was originally March 21st, and then Agnifilo and all them on that side said, yeah, okay, on this past week they met and they said, yeah, we're going to give you that notice on March 21st. Everything's on schedule. Then there's a footnote. It says specifically the defense, that's Diddy, informed the feds that it was going to move to preclude the government's ST expert, and that it would call a rebuttal expert if that motion was denied. The government wants an ST expert. Agnifilo and them were saying, no, we're going to have that precluded, and if the judge don't preclude it, we're going to have somebody come in and rebut your ST expert. Now,
okay, now it's starting to feel
exactly
like home.
because a lot of this stuff is sealed, but this is what we're able to see. Therefore, respectfully requests, with the consent of the defense, to have actually until March 28th to file an amendment to its expert notice to respond to Mark Agnifilo and them. Okay, so this first one, technically, like what they're really asking the judge for is just a time extension. But in the asking for this time extension, we do get some more information about what they're disagreeing about at this point. And again, y'all, it is March 22nd. This trial is scheduled to start opening statements on the 12th of May. And actually, the jury selection is going to start in April next month. The questionnaires, that's in my understanding and what I'm saying is that's kind of the first part of jury selection. So the feds are telling us here in this letter also, it wasn't only a meet and confer on March 18th that they did. No, we also had one 2 days later, March 20th, just this past Thursday. And the defense, Diddy's lawyers, also informed the government that it intends to ask the court to extend its deadline to provide notice of a potential pharmacological expert. So remember whenever they had their last pre-trial conference, I did stream it live, or I didn't stream it live, but we read the live tweets from Inner City Press. There was mention of a pharmaceutical or pharmacological expert, and that was going to be brought up on the behalf of Diddy. It was going to be like somebody who was an expert in, I think, the actual like chemical substances. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know any more than y'all, but that seems to be what was implied. So we're getting information about that again. And at that pretrial conference, it was Mark Agnifilo who had said, Your Honor, I think we're going to ask for an extension on some type of timeline because we do have this pharmacological expert. But they were kind of beating around the bush. They were kind of trying to be a little cryptic because, like I said, a lot of this stuff is kind of off the record and sealed from the public, at least as of now. So this is being mentioned just yet again. Okay, so Your Honor, this is the feds talking. We spoke with Mark Agnifilo 2 days ago. He was talking about he's going to want to extend his deadline about this pharmacological expert until the end of this month, March 31st. And the feds are saying, that's fine. We don't object to that. But if you do grant that, could we also have an extension on our time too? Because our timeline is dependent upon them following their timeline. And if they're not following their timeline, then we're going to get cheated out of our timeline. So that's what they're asking here. If you allow him to extend the deadline on the pharmacological expert, we're fine with that. But if you do that, can you please also extend our timeline until April 7th to provide notice? Because we got to go find a rebuttal expert if necessary, or to move to preclude that proposed expert testimony. The defense is not objecting to this request. So again, generally, they're just asking to move back some deadlines, but we do get some information in here that has to do with experts, an expert on ST and an expert on pharmacological doings. Now, I would imagine if these experts are allowed in, both sides, the feds and Diddy's side, will both also have rebuttal experts. So that is to say, if Diddy has this pharmacological expert, then I would assume the government, if they can't get that expert testimony precluded, then they're going to also have an expert come and rebut. Along the same lines, if the government has this ST expert and they're not precluded from testifying for whatever reason, then I would imagine that Diddy and them are going to also have their own ST expert to rebut what that first one said. Okay, so that's the first issue. Remember the beginning of the letter said we have 2 issues that have arisen? Okay, and this one is a little bit, I think, more consequential and probably a little bit more of public interest as of right now, because right now we really still don't know for sure who any of the so-called alleged victims are, other than being able to possibly piece together Cassie as victim one, because victim one is associated with the CNN Intercontinental leaked hotel footage. Now, the second section right here says victim pseudonyms. Okay, so because right now the victims in the indictments all say victim-1, victim-2. The government has met with the defense, that's Diddy's lawyers, regarding the use of pseudonyms for some of the victims that the government intends to call at trial, consistent with the practice in this district in similar cases. So the government met with Diddy's lawyer and said, we're going to be calling them victim-1. And even though we're calling them up at trial, they're going to be victim 1. The defense objects to the use of pseudonyms for these particular witnesses. Okay, so we are being told in the filing from yesterday that the government is going to still try to call people victim-1 at trial and in all the paperwork. We're being told here, and not coming as no surprise to me, that Diddy and his side are saying, hell no, you can't use pseudonyms. If they're going to come out and make allegations against me, people need to know who they are. I need to know who they are, but more importantly, the people need to know who they are, because I believe Diddy does probably know, or certainly will know before trial, who these people are who are testifying against him. I mean, it is a constitutional right to know who is making claims against you in court. It is a constitutional right. You have the right to confront your accuser, which means you have to know who they are. But it appears that the government may still be trying to keep these victims secret or pseudonymed from the public. Diddy and his lawyers object to that. They don't want nobody being called no victim-1. No, absolutely not. They want the person called their name. The filing goes on. The government intends to file a motion in limine on this topic on April 1st, 2025. So in about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and respectfully requests that the court decide that motion as quick as possible once it is fully briefed. So they're rushing the judge, but I understand why they are, because things do need to start moving a little quicker. Now, what is a motion in limine? A motion in limine is something that you file before the case goes to the full trial on the merits, having to do with evidence. It's an evidentiary motion, and it's usually to exclude certain evidence for some reason. Now, the government seems to be implying they're going to file a motion that these victims' names need to not be named. They may say because of retaliation, because of witness intimidation, but the issue is going to come up that the public has a right to know who's using our institutions. Diddy has a right for the public to know who's making the accusations against him in order to take full account of their credibility. And I think the government kind of makes an argument against themselves in the next sentence. They say the use of pseudonyms implicates multiple logistical concerns, including, among other things, the redaction of a substantial volume of exhibits, preparation of witness testimony, and proposed voir dire. If the court permits certain victims to testify under a pseudonym, the government would also request a conference in advance of the final pretrial conference to discuss these logistics. So, on the one hand, the feds are saying, hey, we're going to file this motion to keep these victims' names private. Diddy doesn't want that. When we file the motion, we're going to file it by April 1st, which is in like 2 weeks. But once we do that, court, you need to hurry up. You need to hurry up and make the decision. Also, on top of rushing the court, we also are going to have to do a substantial amount of work, redacting a substantial volume of exhibits, preparing witness testimony, proposed voir dire, and we're going to all have to come back and have a huge meeting about it as well, in addition to all the other meetings we have to have. Now, every time this happens, remember, these people ain't working for free, and the judge isn't writing their paycheck out of his bank account. No, guess who's paying them? We the people. So essentially the government, the feds, are asking to do something that Diddy does not want done, to hide the identity of witnesses, which I'm sure they have some good reasons, and I'm sure they are going to give them. But we do have to consider the full gravity of everyone's rights involved. The public has a right to know who is using our institutions. On top of the fact, the public has a right to an efficient use of our money. Now, that should not be the first and foremost concern and consideration, but think about all of the money and the public resources that are going to go into paying someone to go through and redact all this stuff. Paying all of these people, these prosecutors and the judges, and everybody's getting paid from tax dollars, and it's just to keep these victims' names as pseudonyms. Again, there could be good reasons. There could be good reasons to keep them as pseudonyms. I mean, a big portion of the allegations against Diddy are that he does witness intimidation or obstructs justice. He goes in and pays people off, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I don't know if this is to keep the identities away from only Diddy or if it's to keep the identities away from the public. You know, maybe people don't want to be seen as a snitch. Maybe people could be in danger for testifying and all of that. But that is only one part of the consideration. Okay. Again, I think that the feds do kind of argue against themselves because they're given all these reasons why it would be a lot more difficult to hide the witness identities. And Diddy is just saying, no, I have a right to know, to confront my accuser. And I have a right for the public to know who is suing me. And this comes down to credibility and all of that. The government probably does have some arguments they're going to argue as to why they should keep the pseudonyms of the victims, but they also are asking for a lot of extra work to be done, and on the part of the judge. Like, on top of everything else the judge has to do, now the judge has to schedule a whole nother new meeting just about the logistics of keeping these people's identities secret. Now, that happens. That has happened before in the past. It will happen again in the future, and I don't personally have enough information or evidence about this to know which witnesses' identities they're trying to keep hidden, which ones, you know, specifically that Diddy is arguing against. I mean, I think trying to keep Cassie's identity secret is a little bit of a moot point. It's pretty obvious, I think, who that is. But yeah, so that's the two big takeaways from the filing from yesterday, Friday, March 21st, is number one, there's a little bit of a disagreement. The government is trying to bring in a ST expert, but Diddy is saying, no, you can't bring that person in. And even if you do, I'm bringing in my own expert about ST. Diddy is trying to bring in an expert about pharmacological, which he's already kind of gotten a little bit of extra time on, I think. Or maybe he just indicated, Mark Agnifilo just indicated that he would be asking for extra time on that. And the government is saying, well, we want to have extra time too, to provide our own rebuttal witness to the pharmacological. And then thirdly, it is up at issue still whether the victims are going to have their names public or whether they're going to be allowed to go by pseudonyms, which means like, you know, victim -1 or whatever. So the thing is, though, I know and I believe that we should, as the public, have a right to know who's making accusations and who's using our institutions. I know that it is difficult to think, like, as a knee-jerk, like, you just can't trust what people say. But unfortunately, I have personally been a victim of people filing false, egregious statements about me in court. So it's just impossible for me to shake the knowledge that people can and do that in federal court. And in, you know, state court and everywhere. They do lie. People lie. It sucks. I would never go and just make a bunch of false allegations about someone in federal court. And I know most of y'all that watch me would not do that either. But the fact that I have seen it personally happen, I can't erase that from my memory. Now, am I saying for sure that's happening in Diddy's case? No, of course not. Am I saying I think it's happening in Diddy's case? No, because I don't even know who these people are. I don't even know who these Jane Does or John Does are. So how could I possibly make a judgment on that? Or
for the love of God, stop it.
But yeah, it's up at issue here, and we're just going to see how it shakes out.
It's
That's all I have for this one. Anytime it facts keep defamation, and neither is reading a letter from the feds. Scroll. Love you, okay, bye.
What do you know? No, baby.
We are going to be covering all the documents that have been dropping in the Corey Richen's case. You guys haven't seen our previous videos that we've been covering on this case. We do have a Corey Richen's playlist if you need to be caught up. But we've been trying to cover all these court documents that have been dropping left and right. You know, we have the Coburger case.
Wait. You cannot get on the bed. Right now. You're not getting on the bed. No.
These trials that are starting soon. For example, Lori Vallow Daybell, jury selection. Seems like they were able to get a jury selected within the first day or two. It's comprised of, I think, 13 men and maybe 3 women, if I remember correctly, and then they'll have 12 people ultimately deciding Lori's fate, and they'll have like a couple left for alternates. And then we have Karen Reed. Karen Reed is currently in jury selection as well, and I think her trial is slated to maybe start sometime the end of this month. But we will be live streaming Lori Vallow's opening statements next Monday. Again, she is representing herself, and I just think it's going to be a fucking shit show. From what I've heard, what I've seen so far, representing yourself when you don't really have any legal experience, when you're kind of batshit crazy, I don't know, it just doesn't really sound like a really good recipe, but we'll see what happens then. Hi, Shaniqua. Hi, Angel. How are you doing today? Hello. Now, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought about talking about Lori Vallow. Karen Reed's having her trial. Okay, I think that's about it. Yeah. Okay. I like lost my train of thought. I feel like I had more to say. All right, y'all. That's what happens when you eat like a half breakfast. I think I need more food in my digestive system. So today we're going to be covering Corey Richens. And Corey Richens, well, there's been a lot of documents that's been dropping, and we're, learning more and more about what the defense's strategy is going to be, some evidence that they might present, and then maybe some strategy from the state as well. For Corey Richens' case, we have a lot of information about this. It's not like the coworker case where we're getting like little tiny driblets here and there. With the Corey Richens' case, man, there is a lot going on with her. A lot of things that
gotta lay at my
I feel
feet.
like she's going down the checklist of all the things that you're not supposed to do when accused of committing a crime, and it's going to be really tough for her to really explain some of the things to the jury. I do wonder if she's going to testify. I feel like she has to testify. She's going to have to testify. She's going to have to talk about the night that her husband died. Again, she's accused of murdering her husband by poisoning him with fentanyl. She told law enforcement, she told the medical examiner, she told, I think, friends and family that her husband doesn't do illicit drugs. I don't know how the fentanyl fucking got there. He just does like 8 THC gummies once in a while. However, the medical examiner found that there was like 3 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. So Corey Richens is being accused of poisoning her husband. Now, she wasn't arrested until about a year later. What's interesting about Corey Richens is that she wrote a children's book to help her 3 sons grieve about their father who passed away. And she went on this like TV station, talked about her book and talked about how, how the sons were like sad, and then like, the dad and all that stuff. And then like afterwards, when she appeared on TV, I think the TV station got a tip or like an email from someone saying like, hey, that woman is accused of possibly poisoning her husband. And then she ultimately ended up getting arrested, I think like a month or 2 or something afterwards. So this is a wild case because there's just been so much. There's been accusations of previously trying to poison him before on Valentine's Day with the egg sandwich. There's her running her business to shambles. Apparently she was stealing money from her husband to fuel her business, and then her business was just not doing well, and she was like borrowing money, and then she was moving all the money around. The state's accusing her of scamming her best friend, like taking the money from the best friend for a down deposit for a house and then using it to pay into her business. Possibly, even scamming her mom. It's a whole fucking mess. It's almost like Alec Murdoch level. It's a whole mess. There's like schemes here and there, all these accusations, and then also on top of it, the state also says that Corey Richens was having an affair with a man for who knows how long. Apparently, it could be 6 years because I think the guy said something about being with Corey for 6 years and Corey Richens didn't correct him. But yeah, these are what the documents are going to reveal, what the state thinks about Corey Richens, and some of their theories about Corey Richens. It's crazy. It is wild. When was this? Oh, is this Shinjan in your profile picture? Oh, I love your profile picture. So good. This was back in like 2022 when she was, I think she was arrested in 2023. The poisoning, I think, happened in 2022. Oh, how the boys will feel after they grow up and how much they will literally hate her. And then there's a lot of family drama happening with her and her deceased husband's family. She wanted to have custody of the kids, or she wanted her side of the family to have custody of the kids, but I don't think they do. I think the husband side of the family, I think they have custody of the 3 kids. But man, yeah, I don't know. I just feel so bad for the children. Even when we're looking at like the Adelson family, if you guys don't know about that case, the Adelson family, that's a whole fucking mess too, where you have these 2 young boys. Their father was murdered, when they were like what, I don't know, like 3-4 years old, and the people that are accused of being involved in that are people in their immediate family, grandmother, uncle. Mom, we'll see. Mom hasn't had a trial yet, Mom hasn't been arrested or anything yet, so maybe mom isn't involved. But right now, grandma's on trial, and, it's going to be, it's just so sad.
Anything it can get stuck to it will.
Up. Hi, Tam. How are you doing today? How's it going? But let's get into these court documents because we learn so much information. There's been a lot of motions denied for the defendant, and there's a lot of setbacks. However, the defense did get some stuff granted, so we'll go over
all the stuff so far. All right, so I anticipate today's stream to be, I can't do Lori, speed. It's not going to be under an hour. It'll probably, I think, be around like maybe 2 hours. So, you guys, have me on, have me in the background, do your chores, or, you guys can read along with me. I'll have it zoomed up for you guys if you guys want to read along, and I will mostly read it. I think some stuff might be redundant, so I might skip through. So, let's start with the ruling and order denying defendant's motion to suppress electronic data. Well, this is from the judge. Defendant Corey Richens moved to suppress electronic data seized from her cell phones because the underlying search warrants lack particularity for the defense. Because the warrants in question are sufficiently particular, says the court, the motion to suppress is denied without prejudice. Now let's look at the dates here. Between May 8, 2023, January 23rd, 2025. I can't believe how time is going by so fast. Isn't it crazy? We're in 2025. Detectives secured 4 search warrants to search the defendant's cell phones for evidence of the crime of aggravated murder. Although most of the alleged facts in support of probable cause to search the phones are identical, there are some unique elements. Despite the unique elements, each of the warrants authorize the search of the same 11 categories of evidence. 1. Electronic documents. 2. Email, instant messaging, text messages. Number 3. Personal communications. 4. Internet history. We got some good internet history searches in this case too. Oh my goodness. Number 5, personal and business schedules. Number 6, photographs, images, and video. 7, contacts lists and phone numbers. 8, call history. 9, GPS location history. 10, social media activity and messages. And 11, all other digital activity stored on the device. Now, if you guys remember, Corey Richens had her phone taken, and they found that she deleted a lot of stuff on her phone. Apparently, she deleted a lot of communications. I think it was like 2 months leading up to Eric Richen's death, and then possibly it was like 2 weeks after Eric Richen's death. It's like, a lot of deletions happening here. I wonder what's going on. And then subsequently, she did end up getting a second phone as a replacement for the first phone. And that second phone was ultimately taken. And in that second phone, we have some very possibly incriminating searches, like I think it was like how long does it take to get like the insurance payout, prisons for rich people, just some of the stuff like that. Now, defendant Corey Richens, did she plan the book or was that a cash grab? I don't know. I have no idea. We will find out, I guess, more. Hopefully, maybe. I mean, we even have her diary. Isn't that crazy? She had a diary talking about or writing about the night that Eric Richens died. Of course, she wanted to have that diary, suppressed, but the court, they denied that. We're going to jump to that quickly soon. Defendant argues that the authorization to search the 11 categories of evidence is overbroad when compared to the specific evidence sought in the affidavits. According to the defendant, law enforcement extracted all digital data from the phones in response to the warrants, conducting a comprehensive search in violation of defendant's expectation of the right to privacy. A search warrant's objective is to ensure that law enforcement seizes items that are within the scope of probable cause without seizing items that are outside the scope of the crime being investigated. However, how broad a warrant must be necessarily depends on the circumstances and the nature of the activity under investigation. Electronic devices, which can now be used to store millions of files and data, presents an emerging challenge for judges when evaluating the particularity of a search warrant. On the one hand, personal devices are ubiquitous and contain a vast array of a person's private affairs.
Sorry if it's tickling you.
Your phone probably has almost fucking everything. At least mine does. On the other hand, they can also be used by criminals to hide, mislabel, manipulate files to conceal criminal activities, particularly in cases involving contraband, such as drugs, in which cases the more generic descriptions are allowed. Because of the competing concerns here between individual data privacy and concerns over concealed information, federal courts have required that warrants for computer searches affirmatively limit the search to evidence of specific federal crimes or specific types of material. So, what they're going to be focusing on is going to be evidence of crime of aggravated murder. Oh God, I don't want to highlight the whole thing. The limitation is meaningful as it eliminates the possibility of warrants being construed as a general warrant, whereby administrative officers determine what is and what is not to be seized, and focuses on the scope of the warrant on the evidence of the elements of the crime under investigation. Moreover, law enforcement, they showed probable cause for the administration of poison as an aggravating circumstances. This element requires the government to investigate whether Richens sought, secured, administered fentanyl to Eric Richens, and such an investigation reasonably requires more generic descriptions of the evidence sought. Homicide by the administration of fentanyl ostensibly takes planning, requires multiple steps over time. Evidence this crime is not necessarily limited to a short time before or after the alleged victim's death, especially when investigating the relationship between the defendant and the potential sources of fentanyl. Now remember, it is alleged that Fort Richens got fentanyl from her, I think it was like from her housemaid, who was labeled as CL. And CL did do a deal with the state where basically they spilled everything because there was something other shit that CL was like getting in trouble for. Relevant screenshots, photographs, text conversations, GPS data, and other metadata over various applications could be saved in a wide array of files on the phone. And internet history over time could show the gathered information on how to prepare for and complete the crime. Law enforcement also had probable cause to seek the evidence of defendant's consciousness of guilt and evidence regarding her credibility, including whether Corey deleted any items from her phone at relevant times and whether the data recorded by her phone is consistent with her description of what occurred the night of the alleged victim's death. Now again, the state has said that Corey Richen said that X, Y, Z happened. However, when we got her phone data, it seems like that wasn't true. It seems like she might have waited a bit before she called 911 because they were able to record her steps, what she was doing during that time, if she was awake or not. Corey said that after, I think like her and Eric were like headed to bed, she decided to not sleep in the bed because one of her children was having night terrors or something like that. So she went to the child's room and like slept with the kid. And then after a couple of hours, she decided to go back to her bedroom with Eric Richens, her husband. But when she came back, she realized that Eric was not breathing or something, and it seems like something had happened to him, and then she called 911 afterwards. But when they looked at her phone, they were like, this doesn't seem very consistent to what you told law enforcement. Back to the court doc. Given the complexity of the crime of aggravated murder involving the administration of fentanyl, the court concludes the warrants in question were sufficiently particular to satisfy both the federal and Utah constitutions. Defendant has not identified any specific evidence or information that law enforcement seized outside the scope of probable cause when searching the extractions of defendant's phone. However, if defendant determines law enforcement exceeded the scope of the approved search when reviewing the extractions of the defendant's devices, defendant may file a subsequent motion to suppress. For now, it is denied without prejudice. Next court doc, we got a ruling in order denying a motion to compel good cause disclosures. This is from docket 802. Oh, this is from her mother's cell phone. Okay, so here's what the state wants. The state of Utah wants to exclude from trial material that Corey's formal counsel, so that would have been Sky Lazaro, downloaded from Lisa Darden's cell phone. Lisa Darden is Corey Richens' mother. For an order that current defense counsel provide a copy of the material to hold the court to hold in escrow, and to have the court reserve ruling on spoliation claims. So back in summer 2023, the parties agreed that defendant's formal counsel copied screenshots of selected text messages between the victim, Eric Richens, and the mother, Lisa Darden. Formal counsel provided the screenshots to current counsel along with screenshots of a note on Lisa Darden's phone and 2 photographs. In his motion, the state moved to compel the screenshots made by the formal counsel. Current counsel invoked work product privilege as formal counsel's decision regarding the screenshots to take and preserve will reveal her thoughts and impressions about the defense strategy, and because the screenshots were taken and preserved in anticipation of litigation. However, the state does not challenge the defendant's assertion of work product protection. Rather, the state seeks to have the screenshots excluded from trial completely. Now, the court is saying that, the state's motion to exclude is premature because they don't know whether or not they, the defendant, they haven't made the determination if they're actually going to use those screenshots in the trial. So, there's also a state's request to hold a court for for the court to hold a copy of the screenshot material in escrow. However, the court says, well, the defense counsel, they have a duty to preserve evidence.
You got over here, you're gonna have to figure it out.
Doing it as, you know, because they should be doing it already to comply with discovery obligations. So there's that. Okay, we'll see this.
There you go. Good job.
Ruling an order granting in part and denying in the motion to suppress letter.
The one thing it could get stuck on, it will.
The dog letter, I honestly think
fucking Velcro, the one piece of Velcro in the whole house.
It's like, treat the dog, or treat the brother like a dog, put a leash on him, and get him to do what I want him to do. And it was the assertion that Corey Richens was trying to win his tamper. Corey Richens was trying to get her brother to falsely testify about where Eric Richens get his drugs in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. So, Corey Richens moves to suppress the document known as Walk the Dog letter for two reasons. One, Corey Richens asserts the letter is protected by attorney-client privilege. Number two, Corey Richens asserts the letter is protected from disclosure under attorney work product doctrine. Work product and attorney-client protected materials are not discoverable in criminal cases and by extension are not admissible at trial unless the protections are waived. Now, going back to September 14, 2023, jail staff searched the defendant's cell and found the 6-page Walk the Dog letter among her things. The parties disagree whether the document was found in an envelope labeled Sky Lazaro, the name of the defendant's formal counsel, and whether it was found among the LSAT materials. So, the defense is saying that no, it was in an envelope labeled Sky Lazaro.
Took too long. Ugh, come on, you asshole. Of course it's the glittery shit. Don't fucking glitter ever got dang where. Oh, I gotta put that insulation up. I don't know why I did all that. I have to put the insulation up as soon as possible. Whatever, I'll just take it down. We sure do complain an awful lot. For someone that has a pretty easy life. Ooh, my back hurts.
Andrew Tate's legal problems just got a lot worse. He got sued. Yes, he did. His ex-girlfriend claims that he assaulted her at a hotel earlier this month, March 11th, 2025, and I have a story to tell you all about it. According to the lawsuit, the assault incident was the worst of a series that gradually escalated into violent and abusive acts. But after investigating this case, I can tell you I have a lot more questions than answers. Very, very, very curious indeed. You're probably not going to believe what I found about any of the parties involved here in the suit.
Innocent until proven guilty in a democracy. We have never been convicted of any crime anywhere on the planet ever.
Please do not send any hate or honestly comments of any kind to anyone mentioned in this video on behalf of me or yourself. The purpose of this video is to give my commentary and opinion on matters of public concern. Thank you. I think it's probably best if I just recap the lawsuit because I get into these stories I think everybody knows about it, and turns out people are like, wait, the Lyft driver's family?
Then I got to the bridge, and I
The
realized...
Lyft driver's family was there?
No. My husband's whole family was there.
Yeah, okay. So the allegations of this lawsuit all kind of start with this content trip. She claims that she first met Andrew Tate this past summer in June 2024, so less than a year ago, and she claims she met him in Romania. Why was she in Romania? She was in Romania because she was doing a content trip, as it is described in the lawsuit. I mean, I'm a social media full-timer, and I don't really go on no content. Not that I call it content. I'm going on the content trip, but that's the content trip. I don't know what a content shoot means. And so she's a model. Bree is a model, the plaintiff, and she alleged she first met Andrew Tate this summer whenever she had basically got cast for a modeling job. And it was a job for the Tate brothers, as you will learn. At that time, the Tate brothers were not allowed to leave Romania. They were not on house arrest, but they weren't allowed to leave the country of Romania. And Tristan had contacted a, quote, mutual friend of plaintiffs requesting, quote, blonde models for a content shoot in Romania. Okay, so this friend, who's this mutual friend? I mean, that's my first question. Who's the mutual friend? Because it's the same mutual friend later eventually she does get on a plane with and goes to Romania with. So I'm just keep that, that's an open question. Ting one, who's a mutual friend. So that's how she meets Tristan Tate, who's the brother of Andrew Tate. She meets him through this mutual friend. Okay, so she said she didn't want to do the content shoot. She declined because it was unpaid. But then it just so happened she ended up going, and it's because she was in a lot of trouble. According to the lawsuit and public records, earlier that same month, Bree's, quote, management had launched a so-called meme coin crypto token in her name, and she says it was without her knowledge or consent. Then they orchestrated a rug pull, according to this lawsuit. And Bree, has basically accidentally scammed her fans, pretty much. And so she needed help, and she had somehow acquired.
Orly, hold on. For fucking God's sakes, it's not when Orly says, okay?
Was teaching her all there was to know about crypto.
If you need to go outside, okay, we'll go outside. Just a minute. Wait.
Invited to the Tate brothers party, and he's like, oh, you should definitely go do it. And she's like, no, I'm not going. It's not paid. And he's like, no, you should go because you know what? They have one of the biggest crypto coins of all time. And it just so happened that the content shoot was for the $ daddy all caps crypto token coin he was launching. So she was actually being hired to be a model for the crypto token coin thing. It was unpaid. So she messages Tristan Tate back and says, hey, actually, I would be interested in coming if you and your brother can help me with my failing crypto coin. Help me save it. $ all caps sister. And allegedly Tristan says, yeah, we'll help you out. And so that's what makes her finally agree to come to the content shoot.
It's not just the networking aspect of it, it's what you're doing in your spare time. What are you learning? What can you possibly offer? Because if you don't have something really unique and special to offer the people who you're trying to meet, you're just going to come across as someone who's pestered. Being pestered is very normal phrase.
So she goes to the content shoot. She arrives there. She said she flew to Romania that same day. She agreed to go and flew that same day. So I don't know if maybe there was already tickets. I don't know if she was going back and forth. I don't know. Just think that's all it says right there. So she gets there to Romania for the content trip, and there's like 10 other quote models there from LA, Miami, Europe, and Canada. All these models get picked up from the airport and driven to a luxury hotel by like a driver. All the models are in a group chat with Tristan Tate, and they're scheduled to ride together in a Sprinter van to a villa in Transylvania, but it's 3 hours away. So all these girls are about to get, like, it's a field trip. They're gonna get from the luxury hotel into the Sprinter van, like the 15 passenger van. They're gonna go for 3 hours or so to a villa in Transylvania to do the content shoot. Now, if you're still wondering what the content shoot is, just hold off. There's a video, I think it's supposed to be, but it's like, it does raise some questions. They're all at the hotel. Tristan Tate is apparently doing the coordinating the group chat, and he's like, all right, girls, everybody get ready to go in the van except Bree. Bree, you have a special assignment. He says it in front of all the other, and it's so weird. I've said this before, they all call them girls. Girls, it's women. You know what I mean? Like, by virtue of, like, it's not girls. Like, I say girl, please, or whatever, but it's just, like, in this context, there's something weird about it. Anyway, so Bree's special assignment is to ride with Andrew Tate in his car for the 3-hour trip, or, almost 3 hours, which she does do. And there are Instagram stories of this on her highlights. And you can see her in the car with Andrew Tate in the end of June 2024 last year. So they do the content shoot. They do a promo video. So this is where you'll see
Orly,
the content
please,
shoot video
buddy.
here.
Fucking please,
Bree
okay?
is
Let me
featured
finish what I'm
prominently
doing.
right next to
It's
Andrew Tate.
emotional
What I found to be very
manipulation.
interesting is, remember earlier whenever she had responded to something for an ad about blonde models? She's like the only one or one of 2 blonde models in the whole thing. Like, it's all brunette models. So I'm like,
Well, maybe it's because they already had all these brunettes and idiots and blondes.
that's probably what it was. I bet you that's what it was. Like, we need some blondes. But it's interesting because she's the one that she is with him in the video as, like, the girlfriend prop or whatever. Yeah. But then at the end, he walks out of they're like,
I'm like so close to just cutting this thread, and I don't even care.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's very Romanian. Like, whatever. It's cute. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not mad at the commercial or whatever. But, like, they all
it's
leave
the
out.
fucking end.
Like, his brother put the
Awesome.
money in the bag. They leave out. Bree stays inside. She don't leave. He left her there. And he walks out with all the other girls that he wasn't paying attention to when he got there. Because that happens. Look, roll the clip, roll the tapes. But according to the lawsuit, it was on this content trip that Bree and Andrew had their first intimate encounter of sorts. Once this Transylvania villa photo shoot ended, that's when Andrew Tate arranges for a hotel near his home, because they had to drive far to get into the middle of nowhere, Transylvania, for this. I don't know what they were doing over there at that villa. This content shoot. But he arranges for Bree to stay in a hotel close to his home for the next day or 2 that she's going to be in Romania, and she's going back. So they do stay together. They have relations. Whatever else happens,
Okay,
there's
take
pictures
it
of her in
outside.
Romania from around this time. Like, there's
Oh
definitely
yeah, there's your
videos.
water right
So,
there.
also around this time, Bree publicly thanked Andrew for his help with her sister coin. She called him like a real man for his help, and she shamed this other micro influencer for not helping her, which I found to be like an interesting move. She kind of was like, real man, Cobra Tate is helping me with my hashtag $, all cap sister, because he's a real man. And these micro, like the use of the word micro, you know what I mean? Like, it just feels... someone's mad, I don't know. She was like trying to bully him into helping her with her failing coin, like he had nothing to do with. Like, anyway, okay, so I can't say I blame him for trying to help her, but we'll get more into that later. So then Bree describes the relationship. She says that after she left Romania, she stayed in constant contact with Andrew, and they were in a committed relationship. And
Orly,
she had to be
do you want to go
monogamous
outside
him.
and go potty?
He did not have to be monogamous to her, but in exchange. But in exchange, it appears he would finance her lifestyle. And she appeared to have a nice, expensive lifestyle. She's, it seems like she was living in a real nice building, real nice apartment, and all that. And then she would fly back and forth to Romania because, again, he couldn't leave. So then they were apparently planning on having a house and a kid together and all kind of stuff and all that. And he ends up coming actually to the States in February. He gets permission, the travel restrictions get lifted on him. Okay, so she said before he came back, he had become mean and controlling. He began to isolate her. He demanded her social media passwords, required her to download and use a thorough GPS tracking app, and forbid her from going to any social events or gatherings with the opposite sex. I mean, it does sound kind of restrictive, but like, I mean, how nice a building you want to live in. I mean, it seems like that's kind of what it seems like to me. But nevertheless, she did continue to date him, and she says she loves him, and she would fly back and forth, like I said. So a month and a half after the content trip, Andrew Tate goes back on house arrest and can't leave his house at all. So now when she's visiting him, she's visiting him at the compound. They're all trapped. And she said she started to notice some red flags during their intimate encounters where he seemingly could not complete his mission without calling her degrading names and saying hateful things to her. And then eventually she says that these degrading hateful names and verbal words ended up eventually turning into violent, physical violence. And so, you know, it escalated into physical violence. But nevertheless, she did stay with him and she did love him, and she, you know, just thought maybe he had a strange fetish or something. And I guess it seems like she was putting up with it for a while. But she says that all came to a screeching halt whenever the greatest event of all happened, and that was the one at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And she says that basically, you know, a consensual encounter had begun, and he began to become very physically, you know, violent or whatever, and she was begging and pleading and crying to stop. He would not stop until he, you know, completed his mission. He completes the mission and goes to sleep. That's what she said. And then she goes straight into the bathroom straight away to take some pictures. And we do see these pictures eventually. In the lawsuit, they come up. Some of the other stuff that she shows in the lawsuit are text messages that do purport to show Andrew Tate saying, "You need to be hit. Why wouldn't I be able to hit you? You are my property. I really love hitting you. It's relaxing. It's good for me." She also says that
talks like that,
at one
like
point,
weird to his girls. Like,
why
would you be in a relationship with Andrew Tate and expect to be treated like a queen or
put her
something?
on the list of victims, so she had to specifically make a video, and
he makes videos about how he thinks women are like lower than
all right, well, she
men.
went along with all of that, like,
Would you expect?
knowing that somebody was trying to keep her from being a victim. She's like, all right, I'll make a video lying. The way she described it is, before she could visit him on house arrest, certain like things had to be made sure of, like, for example, that she's not a victim of trafficking there against her will. I think probably what it is, it was actually required. And is it bad? Is it necessarily bad that he wanted to have that, like, given the circumstances of everything going on? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he has not been convicted of anything, and I'm gonna treat him as innocent until he's proven guilty. But like, there's certainly behaviors and things he's said that's like, I don't know, you know. Also, she's claiming he threatened her, that if you ever betray me, you will regret it, or whatever. I will unalive
What is
you
this
or whatever.
about?
So
Can
then
get
you have
stuck
the
at
aftermath
will.
of the whole incident. Bree says she sought medical attention and was diagnosed with post-concussion disorder after the whole ordeal. But Andrew Tate points out that this was like 4 days after the incident, so like it would be a pretty serious concussion, which I think her side would argue that would be, yeah, it was so serious it still was diagnosed. He says it's basically like she's basically got a tummy ache and went to the ER. You know, they just disagree. So, but she does have this paper. So that was March 11th that the alleged incident happens. Then March 13th, she posts these pictures right here. So like 2 days later, which those pictures could have been taken any time. But it's like a Fashion Nova ad. Fashion Nova. So maybe it's AI. I mean, the bruising was definitely, like, didn't look bad enough that she couldn't have covered it, and, like, you know, with some spray tan and some makeup. You know, not to make light of it, I'm just saying these pictures could be from then. And then 2 days later, she goes to the hospital, gets this diagnosis, or urgent care, I don't even think it was the hospital. And then a few days later, somebody sees Andrew Tate in New York, and Bree assumes that this is, like, a stalking incident. Like, he must have been there to see her. So then he leaves at some point to go back to Romania to deal with his criminal charges. And it's March 22nd, the news reports that they left. And then she filed a police report with the Beverly Hills Police Department, but only after Tate left the U.S. And then March 27th, about, 5 days later, the lawsuit was filed. At that point, Tony Busby and Bree post on their social medias, and so does Woe Vicky. But we'll get to that in a minute. So sometime after March 27th, I just want to point out, Bree changed her Twitter banner. The one on the left is the before banner, and the one on the right is the current. You see what it is?
Oh my god, anyway. This is gonna be a nightmare.
So then there's public statements that have been involved, with this thing. So I want to get a little bit into people's sides. The parties involved all have made public statements on the issue, including the lawyers. And Tony Busby, if he has a chance to get in the ring, he's coming out. It's gonna be a triple post. It's gonna be in the media, it's gonna be on the Insta, and it's gonna be on Twitter. He's doing them all. So the same day the lawsuit was filed, but this is before the public actually could even see the documents. Like, I was refreshing the page all day. I paid dollars after dollars to keep running the name search, and mine showed up. But before it actually hit the docket for the public to view, there were news reports that a lawsuit had been filed and that Tony Busby was the lawyer. So the way I found out about it was Busby's Instagram. And he announced the lawsuit on Instagram. He said he was so proud of Bree for her courage and her bravery and was proud to represent her. And then there's this picture of Andrew Tate kissing Bree. It is, look, I mean...
Guys, I'm looking at it, that's all I was like...
Remedy the house, bust down. So many people recognize Busby because of his recent representation of the many Diddy accusers, including the Jane Doe who had sued Jay-Z alongside Diddy. That was her lawyer, Busby. Well, that case has been dropped by the Jane Doe. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of circus going on over there. But it was after she faced intense public scrutiny because the aspects of her story did not appear to line up. There were no witnesses, etc., etc. But she was first picked apart on NBC by Chloe Maywas, who not only scored the exclusive interview, but somehow was able to verify that that was in fact Jane Doe. How would she be able to do that? You know, she got the exclusive interview, elevating her public profile, her, career profile. But this Jane Doe just really gets picked apart, ate apart, just torn apart after this. So remember, that Jay-Z saga all first started, why? Because Tony Busby had sent him a demand letter to do a settlement. Let's do a settlement before we have to sue you, because we don't want to do a public trial. And now Jay-Z has actually sued that lawyer, Tony Busby, for extortion. There's an extortion trial going on now. Busby says that's not extortion, that's typical behaviors. But this Tony Busby, this is representing Bree. He's like kind of publicly known for being someone who tries to get the settlement before he sues, and then making a huge media splash.
The A-list celebrities linked to Diddy and his alleged sexual assaults are trying to keep their identities private. That's according to Houston attorney Tony Busby. He says he's already privately settled some of the accused. That's after his firm sent out demand letters.
That's what I've seen. He also was recently denied admission to practice in the Southern District of New York for some type of lawyerly misconduct in a separate case. Now he and his co-counsel are both seemingly facing discipline up to a sanctions hearing, and I believe perhaps some grievance committee involvement has happened already. Then back in October, the news
Okay.
reported that
I asked you a minute ago if you wanted to go out, and you said no.
So he has a history of publicly settling with high-profile celebrities.
Why are you all tangled up in the thread?
Forget that Busby was also the lawyer who filed and settled the Astroworld lawsuit. Remember with Travis Scott, and it was like a demon soul harvest ritual or whatever they were calling it, but like people died. Who knows how many they reported different numbers. But Busby was the lawyer that negotiated and announced the settlement for that down there in Houston. So he has a reputation. So yeah, I think it's just worth noting the financial implications and the other types of implications of the fact that Bree has chosen this Tony Busby lawyer with such a caliber and with such a reputation of these high profile and celebrity settlements. It does seem to be something he has admitted in court filings. It is normal and routine procedure to do these settlements before the lawsuits. So Busby wasn't the only one posting that day. Again, before Bree's lawsuit officially appeared on the public docket, her and Tony Busby already posted about it online. She herself posted this Twitter thread PR statement with evidence of what she claims are bruises and injuries from the alleged incident. And then there's more receipts in the Twitter thread after showing the previously, these text messages would have been private text messages if they are real. Now, Andrew Tate said they were fake. So I don't know. I have no idea if they're real or fake. I'm just looking at what she put in here. If it is real, if it's not, I do not know. But if they're real, she put them out. She shared them, and they were previously private, which that happens from time to time in litigation. But she's kind of laying it all out. So Bree said after she did all that, shared the screenshot, shared her side of the story, put it to her face, the video, she's crying, the whole thing. She's like, I will not be speaking publicly on my relationship with Andrew Tate. And it's like, well, girl, there's 18 tweets in this. Her medical record is in there. The whole thing. And so she's like, no, I'm not going to speak publicly no more. But she did speak publicly more because she went over into Instagram. She did that too. She posted over there. And it's like a real PR statement on Instagram. It's like 2 pages. And she's like, any media inquiries, any inquiries. But it's the same day, right? All of this before the lawsuit hits the public docket. She's like, okay, I'm done. I'm really done now for real. I'm really done now for real. All right, I'm done. No more public statements on Andrew Tate, no more. No more public statements on my relationship. But despite this assurance, the very next day, Bree would publicly discuss the details of her relationship with Andrew Tate on NBC, and a now familiar character that we've come to know in the story, Chloe Mayloss. Chloe Mayloss is getting a deeper voice every time I hear her speak. We gotta put hey, it's Chloe. We gotta put one in here, Ethan, just for old time's sake. Hi guys, it's Chloe.
I'm Chloe.
Anyway, so she's got the exclusive.
You know, Andrew Tate and his brother had been open with their views for over a decade on social media, but she says that she really didn't Google him before she flew to Romania to meet him, that she hadn't been following him on social media, and she really didn't know all that he was about.
Meghan Markle.
They were in a very loving relationship.
It's interesting because on that last Jane Doe, she all of a sudden developed for the first time ever that I've seen the ability to vet. The ability to vet a Jane Doe, to vet somebody. She vetted them so good, she somehow found out who it was behind the scenes. This Jane Doe really got picked apart by Chloe Mayloss and the rest of the public, and she should. You know, you shouldn't make false allegations. I don't want this to make it seem like I'm like, oh yeah, like make fake allegations. No, don't do that. But they have their sides of the story. Here's Chloe showing up. Now she seems to have forgotten her newly learned ability to vet witness, to vet a victim, alleged victim, whatever you call it. She forgot that one now because she did not vet when I found later coming up. Like I said, Andrew Tate and his lawyer are both denying publicly all of these allegations, viciously, adamantly denying all of the allegations. They say they're looking forward to proving Bree's false, fake, lie claims false in court. That's what they're saying. But then Busby bounced back and he said, you know, he claps back any chance he's coming. Busby said that's the exact type of ignorance he would expect, not these people filthy mouths or something. I mean, here's the quote right here. But time will tell on the lawsuit. Time will tell. We just have to see what evidence comes out, what doesn't, what settles, what don't. I mean, we don't know. But there's some loose ends to this story we definitely got to wrap up. There's definitely a hole for the fact too. Remember dollar sign? I keep saying hashtag. Remember dollar sign sister? Dollar sign, all capital letters sister. That it was failing. You know, she needed help to save it. That's why she went on this unpaid modeling gig. I mean, it is a trip to Romania, right? That's payment, kind of. I don't know how it works. I'm sure, you know, there's managers involved, as it were. But, so, yeah, she has this failing crypto coin, and she claims this is the whole reason she agreed to go to the content of the in the first place. Almost immediately after the news of the allegations and the lawsuit drops, the value of the coin, $sister, goes up. And remember, in that Twitter thread, she did say $sister. It was like, I gotta be honest, it did kind of make me feel a little bit like some type of way whenever I came across her $sister mentioned in the "My name is Bree Stern. I am a resident of California, and I have been abused by Andrew." Whatever. It was an interesting choice to me that she put her failing crypto coin sister in there. And then when Woe Vicky retweeted about it, which she's got her own section coming up, but when Woe Vicky tweeted about it, she tweeted something about a crypto or a meme or a new coin or a new this or that, $sign justice for Bree. What? Hold on. And like, so these questions are already kind of in my mind as I'm just like learning about this story. And of course, the media hates Andrew Tate. Before I knew anything about Andrew Tate, I knew I better not like him. You know, like, I've seen some behaviors that I just don't like. I gotta be honest. But it's like, I don't know if he's, you know, if that's the same, you know, him doing behaviors I don't like is exactly the same thing as him doing exactly what he's being accused of here. So I'm trying to figure it out. And Sister's going up. It's going to the moon, Sister's to the moon. It's apparently within like a day. Public reports were revealing that her previously failing coin, her token, had swelled by over 290% in the past 24 hours, reaching a market cap of
because people who hate Andrew Tate are going to buy it just to do the thing.
Since we're in crypto land, that brings us to the Daddy coin, $, all caps Daddy. Remember the context.
Is that your bone? Good job. Get it. Get your bone. Get him.
Because Andrew Tate was having a photo shoot.
There you go.
The launch of his meme coin, Daddy. So what even is that? Why do these meme and crypto coins keep coming up? Like, what does this have to do with all of this? What in this Hawk Tua just had a meme coin scheme scandal that the SEC is now not going to prosecute? Are they looking into Gary Vee? I'm just curious. How far now? He wanted to do a meme coin token drop launch. What is that? Y'all can't just like sign an autograph a statement.
Why can't it
There's
just
only 50,
cooperate?
and everybody got one or something.
Why
Like,
must it be a fucking act of goddamn Congress?
Seriously.
Each and
It's
every...
like, I don't know.
Do not bark at me like that! I do not have my earplugs in.
So in the marketing
Go!
to this launch,
Holy
Tate
fuck.
predictably used some inflammatory and controversial
Okay,
advertising, including this
just a minute.
which I probably cannot show all of, certainly cannot. But suffice it to say, it involved whipping a lady with a belt.
Every time I ask you, do you want to go out, you always say no, and then I get yelled at because you need to go right now.
For the launch of
Okay, we're gonna go outside. Hold on.
No, it was like daddy's home and he's whacking with the belt, he's taking the belt off. It's too much, Andrew Tate and Fam and Co. Too much. Okay, so
what the actual titty and
like,
fuck?
this was the content shoot.
It's not even hitting it yet. Oh,
that's what I understood the lawsuit to be saying. And she knew he was good at coin, but she wasn't watching the ads for it. Like he was like whipping a lady with a belt and throwing her all over the room in the advertisement. But she says no. Her and Busby have come out both and said, stop saying she should have known. He lied. He was nice to her. But even in her own lawsuit, she says he was mean and controlling and forced her to download an app and forced her to not go to parties with the opposite sex. And it's like, girl, when I look at the parties they throw in, like her ex-boyfriend, which we'll get to, they seem to have different words for model and party than what you might not think the word party could apply to something like this. But then it's like, well, I guess it's a party. It's a social event, technically. But people are literally, woo, I can't even say it.
Come on.
That ad aired before she went. Then there's this other daddy ad from August, a few weeks before the shoot. Has 100
Orly,
views.
I'm like really seriously on the fucking edge right now.
You
all right?
And go to a $10,000 dinner and they don't even know if it costs $10,000 or $200 because they don't even know. And they don't know how the man who made the money and how he's paying for it, and they don't care.
Beautiful women don't even know how much things cost. Take it from me. They'll be in Mykonos at a dinner that costs $10,000 and they wouldn't even be able to tell you it cost $10,000, $200. They don't know how the man who paid for it made the money, and they don't care.
I was searching for the lie. Who knows?
I'm gonna snap. I'm totally going to snap before the end of today.
What do you mean they must have paid? Like, that's the thing, though. It's like, for me, I wouldn't care because it's like the people I'm around, like, I'm pretty sure it came from, like, that working a job or whatever. Okay. Like, what do you mean I don't even know?
Just make another one.
I don't even want to carry money. I told somebody the other day, I wish I didn't have to carry money, ever. So I could just always say, I don't have any money. Sorry. Not for nefarious purposes, but you know, like sometimes, you know, like especially I learned in India, they'll run up to you and people want to get money from you and stuff, and you're like, I don't have any money, and you can say it and you're telling the truth, and that's it. But then I'm like, I'm giving some money. Anyway, okay, so, all right. What actually ended up exactly happening with this daddy $ crypto meme? I don't know. I do not understand how it works. It feels very fake to me. It doesn't seem like a legitimate prospect in any, it's too far removed. I don't get it. Okay, so I'm gonna put some people in here who get it and know what's going on and kind of tell y'all, but there does seem to have been some controversy with the daddy coin beyond the Transylvanian villa.
Oh, dude, Andrew Tate's crypto thrift. That sounds very interesting, and I want to watch it. I had to know. So Andrew Tate, obviously because I follow Andrew Tate religiously, and I hang on his every word, I saw that he was tweeting about that he's pumping a new shitcoin that all of his, daddy. Somehow he's also watching as he gambles, and then he plays Daddy Coin, and you can go to daddiesuniversity.com to get rich. I mean, it's just a brilliant idea. Anyway, as I recall, you can go back even just 1 year, and Andrew Tate was saying, I do not endorse shitcoins. I'm not a scammer like every other influencer. I don't need to rob my fans. I don't have anything to do with crypto. Bro, what is with the hypocrisy? That's how could you? How do you square that circle if you're an Andrew Tate fan? That's what I don't understand. How do you, like, when you see that first post, when you see his post, you're all like, yeah, dude.
Turn.
Yeah, he's different.
Turn.
And you, like, ride or die, and you like shit on other people because of it. And then he does this, and you have to. How do you cognitive dissonance that?
Imagine you get 10, 15 models international, flying in from all over, staying them in a luxury hotel, not paying them, according to Brie. And then you get in the van, the driver, driving them over there. Then you got the luxury car you driving in one special, you picking her up, and you're doing all of this, and all of that is for this 3-minute renting, or maybe they own it, a Transylvanian castle villa. This thing is huge. It's a castle, and they're maybe it's not the one he's walking up to it. Maybe I'm just assuming this is the location because she said it was for that. So I'm assuming if it's in that video, that's that castle. It looks cool. It looks fun. It looks dangerous. It looks like one of those guys at the poker table isn't somebody I would ever want to cross. Oh no. Namaste, well wishes, shanti shanti, and all of that. Yes, assalamu alaikum, everything, all of it, because they look scary, and I wouldn't want to be 3 hours from civilization in this castle with nobody, okay? No. Transylvania, where they got vampires that drinks blood. Y'all are wild going out there for no money. Woo, girl. What's really going on with the crypto? This is why I can't get involved. This seems sketchy, kind of. Like, he's putting the crypto in the bag. Like, girl, I don't know. Okay, anyway, so beautiful women don't know how much stuff costs. Kind of true, kind of pass the check. He's talking about you will make money. Okay, so, fine, whatever. Daddy coin, daddy token, allegations, who knows, I don't know. But that brings me to looking at this girl, Bree Stern. Who is she? Why is she so special as to get hand selected by the likes of Andrew Tate to be a special Ferrari girlfriend that day or whatever? You know, I mean, I don't know. So I'm looking into her. In the lawsuit, Tony Busby describes Brianna as a young woman building an already successful modeling career. And her career was unfortunately what also made her a target of Andrew Tate. Now, that's what they allege. But as it turns out, Andrew Tate isn't the only tumultuous public relationship resulting in serious legal allegations that Bree has had. It's actually not even the first one this year.
Strange.
So earlier this year, January 2025, while she was still dating Andrew Tate, earlier this year, like 2-3 months ago, Bree filed to get a restraining order in Los Angeles against her ex-boyfriend, Ryan. So in the filings, she accuses Ryan of harassing her and sending his social media followers to harass her also. So he's like some type of social media guy. She includes Andrew Tate in the temporary restraining order request as a protected person. And she's like, my ex-boyfriend is messing with my new boyfriend and they're very, very high profile and I need a restraining order because of social media posts. So shortly after she filed for the temporary restraining order, she hired a lawyer. And then shortly after that, the lawyer then filed to dismiss the temporary restraining order. So her own lawyer. So she hires a lawyer, the lawyer comes on, and then the lawyer makes a filing and says, dismiss the case that my client filed. So the hearing date rolls around anyway, and nobody ends up showing up and the case is dismissed. And they do this, they keep the hearing date on calendar until the parties can come and they can make an order. Because, things change. Things get tumultuous, they get, whatever. Okay, so the case is dismissed against this Ryan, this ex-boyfriend. But again, y'all, this is this year. She just tried to get this temporary restraining order and then she dropped it on her own. So who is this ex, this allegedly harassing ex? This is where the story gets even more curious. I could take a whole video on this guy. I had to cut so much stuff out about him. Let's just say this guy is no angel himself. His name's Ryan Pownall, and he is a corn podcaster who swears he doesn't do. But his whole podcast is that. And he runs a podcast called Pillow Talk.
So wait, what is it that you actually are doing? Okay, so because I know you do the podcast, yeah, you have the conversations, great, right?
Yeah.
But what are you doing? Like, what's the other business outside of that?
So
okay,
fucking bird. Pillow Talk, and then like I said, we do the
I'm sorry.
every now and so often, and that's when we get a little freaky deaky. So
So Pillow Talk is some OnlyFans thing.
No, well, it's supposed to just be a podcast, but I like to keep pushing it. So recently we had a girl in a wheelchair who was paralyzed. It's down. And we had the grandpa didn't come back on her paralyzed body.
What?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
And that's when I looked at Terry and I was like, man, are we going too far, bro? You want to see?
No.
It's sponsored by Mate, which he thanked 2 months ago by saying they were the reason he has any money in the world for his podcast.
Our Mate, our number one partners and family, the reason we have any money in the world, they're here.
So that's interesting. But like this, just so you know, the Andrew Tate criminal allegations have to do with webcam business, where he's allegedly
It's fucking cold. Holy fucking shit.
Officials' allegations
Really
is Andrew
fucking
Tate
cold.
is allegedly forcing women to do webcam work and taking the money from them, so like a form of trafficking or whatever. So this Ryan Pownall guy, his podcast Pillow Talk is sponsored by Mate, which is one of those live cam Could it be a competitor? Could it be somebody that, you know, Andrew Tate has worked with or not? I mean, how many live cam players are there in the game? Maybe a lot. Maybe that's the deeper story here. But it's just interesting to me how, like, this is Bree's ex-boyfriend and he's sponsored by a live chat cam thing, and the live chat cam thing is what Andrew Tate is being accused of for doing. And, you know, allegations are allegations, but if he really did do any of that stuff you're alleging, I mean, it's kind of bad, but we have to see. It seems like whenever Bree was dating this guy, she really did like him, and it does seem like she was affectionate toward him and really appreciated him as like a boyfriend. I think she like really did see him as that. And importantly as well, Bree was not doing OF when she started dating this guy. And even when she started doing OF, she wasn't doing full nudity. She was not even showing stuff. So it was like, she's really not a corn actress from what I can tell. She really is just a model. And, you know, she goes on these trips and goes modeling on what's going on over there in the Transylvanian villa. But it seemed like really, it was when she started dating this Ryan guy is when she started really kind of getting nudged in that direction. And maybe she chose to go in that direction for sure. Like, whatever. It just does seem to have coincidentally incited at the same time. There's actually an episode of them together on the podcast that we talked 2 years ago, and you can tell she's really not that into the corn stuff at all. There are very many very super uncomfortable cringy moments because they're like interviewing this adult film star, and this one is like been in the business God damn it! It truly made me feel like kind of sick, like even
how many times did I unplug something
like,
and punch something?
Like, I don't think I put it in here, but
getting
Ryan,
fucking
like,
over it.
To Bree, who they're dating at the time, and he's
Poor
like,
hands.
"Have you ever done?" And then insert very extreme and explicit sexual act, and she's like, "Ew." No, what? I wouldn't even know how that would even. Oh.
Baby, have you ever done
Babe. No offense, but I don't know how that would work for me.
How does that work? That's crazy.
But it was just, listen, like I said, he has his moments, okay? He also publicly encouraged her to start the OF and even encouraged his own friends to subscribe, even though they were saying they didn't want to. Here's the clip of that.
But you're my friend, so I don't look at it. Don't get weird. It's okay.
You know what? Sub to her OnlyFans.
Yeah, okay, I would.
Yeah, at Baby Bree. You know, I get
well on it.
Yeah, she just started 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I convinced
how
her
is
to.
that?
And then here's a picture from the Pillow Talk podcast from April 2023. He's showing his girlfriend off, advertising that she just dropped her OF. So that is Bree's ex, if you're wondering. He's also known for his famous mansion parties, and I can't even show you much footage from those without violating 15 terms and conditions and probably some laws in some countries even. I mean, really, y'all, they have substances, they have things going on out there. But again,
Now this is what makes the party so pretty. The Pillow Talk lettering, again, the gay guys did this. Gay people so good at decorating. Brother of my favorite artist in the 90s. Beautiful soul, Jesse McCartney, Google it. Legend. And you guys are giving out weed, right?
Yes, we are. We got whatever you guys want.
Punch something again.
You guys are adorable.
Thank you so much.
I just want to squish you.
nobody, you know, is guilty of anything till proven in court and stuff. But suffice it to say, these parties seem to be parties, you know, where they all do stuff. You know, they're stocked with alcohol and various substances sponsored by alcoholic beverage companies, including Happy Dad, which... Isn't that like a YouTuber beer brand, Happy Dad? So they sponsored it. Also Cocoa Vodka. But I think Ryan himself, the Pillow Talk guy, is a 1% owner of the Cocoa Vodka. And it was sponsoring his party. So not only are the mansion parties popping with alcohol and substances, but they're also popping with famous people. Like he name drops Snoop Dogg and Trey Songz at the beginning of this video right here. I mean, I don't know if they really came or not. I didn't see them there, but he did say their names.
Pillow Talk party in the Hollywood Hills. It's the biggest party of the year of the decade. We closed the list. We got a call. Snoop Dogg wants to come. All right, we added him. Trey Songz wants to come. You fucking bet, baby.
Amber Rose is pictured here at the mentioned at the Pillow Talk party published 4 months ago. Another frequent guest of these parties is Adam, 22, Grand Mason, 16, and his wife Lena the Plug. They go and are featured on camera.
Lena said, I'm waiting for Adam, 22, to get here.
No, I never said that. I'm gonna try to f him him in that room.
Yeah, you did, Selena.
And some crazy stuff happens at these parties. There's this one corn girl who said she had such an extreme experience that at the like corn convention a few months later or whatever, she still hadn't been able to engage in any like activities with her lower, downstairs genitals, because with her lower part, she could only do stuff with her mouth because she was still recovering from the Halloween party that was at Ryan Pillow Talk Mansion party.
Your was damaged by whomst.
It was because of your at your birthday party.
Halloween party.
So what happened there? And the titles of these videos are things like such and such gets brutal verb in front of 500 people. Like stuff like that's the titles of YouTube videos. There's videos on YouTube. Creators Inc. And then I'm getting demonetized. I can't even talk about it. Right. They demonetized me. Don't get me started on what they listen. So anyway, yeah, those are the mansion parties. This is Bree's ex before Andrew Tate. This guy, Andrew Tate, they were trying to get a restraining order.
Over and
so
show
this
my
guy
entire
couldn't talk about
butthole
Andrew Tate. Like,
through the
they
world.
have, like, previous like beef or whatever.
If I did,
So
whatever.
it's like a bro code word for like what that is, what that relationship is between like two guys that are. It's probably really like degrading. There was some legal drama between Ryan and Andrew Tate. There's a clip right here of him talking about receiving multiple cease and desist from Andrew Tate.
Okay, the cord isn't overheating.
You think Tate would do that? Nah, Tate's my boy.
Tate's dating my ex, Bree.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Tate's my boy. He wouldn't.
Like, I
He
feel
would
like...
not. He don't go
I
like
believe
that.
They sent me a cease and desist 2 weeks ago, though.
For what?
I made one silly joke about my ex dating Tate, and then I got a cease.
On a podcast?
And then there's Chloe Moan a lot is one of the names.
Wait, did you actually get a cease and desist though?
Yeah, I'll show you.
What the?
For Mr. Tate and Mrs. Stern. So I'm not.
No, I got a cease.
Yeah, I swear to God.
There's no way.
Yeah, this douchey lawyer from Texas. Look at the terms on the second page. So one, they want me to delete all videos about them. 2,
Bush and Bush, Texas trial attorneys.
they wanted me to post a retraction video. I will on a hill before I apologize to Bree online.
Did you get the page back?
Yeah.
Oh, so you didn't have to say sorry.
21,000.
Wait, so it's just because you mentioned something?
Yeah.
What did you say specifically? Do you remember?
Yeah, I said, my ex is dating Andrew Tate, which is crazy because I took his advice to break up with her.
Oh, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Well, like I said, nobody showed up in court. Nothing ever really came from it. It's got dismissed. It's over the end.
Yay,
The
heat.
story is not. Would you believe me if I told you there is another ex-person? I don't know if a boyfriend exactly, but another ex-lover who also has been engaged and embroiled in some slander, allegations, fraud accusations in public. And it led to a lawsuit. There was also looked to me like astroturfing involved, which maybe I'll do a surprise
here,
on like a
so that I
body
can
language
feel
analysis
you.
of that whole thing. But there's another
What I
ex-boyfriend.
do
We're
is
gonna call
these.
this the XX. Because now Andrew Tate's the
No, it's so you're not really supposed to have heaters plugged into extension cords, but that's all I can do. I have no choice. I have only an extension cord out here.
There's this other ex,
So
Louis Vanderwoodson.
doing what I can.
That's not his last name, but it's something like that. Boosin, Boyin, Booin. And in 2022 federal legal filings, the defendant is Bree Stern, a self-described actress and influencer living in California. So someone is suing her this time. She's getting sued for a temporary restraining order. In California, this guy's in Pennsylvania jurisdiction. Restraining order against Bree. This guy's trying to get.
As long as it's not burning the house down heat.
There's also exhibits, including screenshots of an Instagram account that very much appears to be the same The Bree Stern. So for these public and fully disclosed reasons, I am assuming this is the same Bree Stern, but I guess there could be 2 Bree Sterns modeling and influencing in Los Angeles who both have The Bree Stern as their Instagram name. Could be. I don't know. I think it's the same one. So then who's suing her? This other ex. This guy, from all appearances, what he says is a golden boy. Seemingly a rich golden boy, too. From a very good and prominent family, and he plays golf in tournaments, and he's up for the Forbes 30 under 30 or something, and he's very handsome. And, importantly, he's in the U.S. on a student-athlete visa. So he's, a little bit conscious about not getting deported. He's on student-athlete. He's like a University of New Mexico or something, golf team or whatever. This is 2022, so this was 3 years ago. But according to the lawsuit, Bree was working with a mutual acquaintance named Frankie Delgado to effectuate an extortion of sorts.
What the fuck? This thing's working so good.
According to the lawsuit, Bree had an out-of-state modeling shoot during which Louis, this guy, stayed at her apartment one night to watch her dog. And then he's like, well, during this, she begged me to clean her dusty crust. It was dusty, it was gross. I had to clean it, but I said, yes, I'll do that. I'll happily do that. Now, Bree, she claims he offered to clean the apartment, but they both agree he was in the apartment alone and he did clean. And he says that he moved in order to clean. He moved a small black safe, and he didn't open it or anything like that. And he didn't take anything out of it, and he put it right back. And he told Bree when it happened that it happened, and she was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. So time goes by, she comes back, he leaves, and she ends up then saying he stole money out the safe. She starts accusing him of stealing $20,000 cash, and then she accused him of stealing $40,000 cash, and like $7,000 in some meme coin crypto something. I mean, this crypto coin crap keeps coming up. I'm just, what is that all about?
I didn't realize any of this until after he had, I believe 100% with all of my heart, because he was the only person in my apartment that somehow, with his track record of being a con artist, he broke into my safe, stole my life savings basically, and that was in there in cash. And how did you guys meet? So I had a mutual friend who basically said, come to the Super Bowl with me and my friend. He vouched for him. He said he's a pro golfer, he's an investor, he's buying the suites. He will be driving us in his Porsche SUV. And I was like, whatever. It didn't end up happening. But at the time I had followed him because I said, who's the friend? I followed him because I thought we were going to the game, and then unfollowed him. So due to me doing that, it made his messages show up in my regular folder on DMs, you know, so I actually saw his messages.
Okay.
So after that, he continued to message me, and his infamous line was, be my date to the Forbes Gala. I don't know if you know about this, but with all the girls who he seeks out on Instagram, that's what he says. Be my date to a Forbes Gala.
So if this guy or any guy messages you saying be my date to a Forbes Gala, be a little bit wary of that.
So yeah, she's accusing him of this stuff, and he denies stealing anything from her. She starts saying that she has video of it, and on top of Bree herself accusing him, there's all these other people that this guy Lewis, he alleges they're all conspiring. They're in a scheme. They're in a conspiracy scheme to frame him and lie about him and accuse him of something just to maybe extort him. So, and he's accusing Bree, the girl that's suing Andrew Tate right now. She's the one that was accused of this stuff in this lawsuit, from what I can tell. So on top of Bree sending texts demanding that he return her money in cash immediately, or else she was going to go to the authorities. She told him there was criminal complaints, multiple criminal complaints open on him, and she was working with the authorities, and the only way she's going to tell them to not do that is going to be because if he gives her money back. So at one point, Bree told him there was multiple criminal investigations open. He adamantly denies stealing from her. He's like, I just didn't want to get deported. Like, I was up for Forbes 30 under 30. She's making all these allegations. She claimed that this Louis Delgado guy, he had a Ferrari that this Vander Woodson was trying to buy, and there was a mix-up about buying the Ferrari, a bounce check, a cash check, a this, that, the other. But then from Vander Woodson's side of things, he's saying that Ferrari was doo-doo. That Ferrari was not working right. It had some issues with it or whatever, so I wasn't gonna buy it. I canceled that check. Hard to know. I don't know. But she had made up these, like, posters that were like advertising that he had done this stuff and accusing him of being a fraud and stealing and trying to steal a Ferrari and all this stuff. And he's like, I'm 25 years old or 22 years old. I'm trying to make an end to my family's name. He's from a rich family that's very prominent in the golf world. And so he's like, I will pay you $30,000, anything you want to stop these people from deporting you. So that's his side of things. Well, there are text messages, which we will read, and, you know, it's going to make the video kind of long, but I just have to read these texts to y'all because it's so much of the context. So, Frankie, this guy Frankie with the Ferrari and Bree, then they're doubling down, teaming up on Lewis, saying that he has to pay up $47,000 by that same day, or else they're going to move forward with criminal charges. Not only that, also, she was going to post it all on social media for the world to see. So you could see the post she threatened to post. She sends these posts to him beforehand. She's like, you don't give me the money by tonight, within an hour. He's like, I'm in Australia or South Africa or wherever in the hell he's from. He's like, I'm in South Africa. I can get someone to drop it off to you at the Trader Joe's. I just like, please call off. It's like a whole drama. It felt like a Dahlia and Dia with the police there and trying to convince them not to arrest. You know, it just felt like one of those stories. Just like there's so much chaos going on. And then Bree, she has also made videos describing this whole thing, calling him the LA swindler.
It's crazy. So he reached out to me about if this whole thing has happened in the span of a little over a month. my life has been flipped upside down.
That's exactly what happened to me. It was like a month from hell.
Yeah, so I was kind of on the rebound. I was, you know, mentally like, oh, I'll give this like nerdy looking guy a chance.
Right.
And
Yeah.
well, I'll go out on a limb here. And
He claims that she has a drug problem with, and she claims she could do a hair test today. She's never done that one day in her life. It was just interesting whole saga over there. I mean, they're gonna probably make a docu-series about it one day. It's gonna be a whole episode of it. So there's three different legal disputes now that we've seen this lady Bree Stern involved in. The first one we knew about was the Andrew Tate one, but then come to find out, all the way back in 2022, 3 years ago, she was being sued for extortion scheme. Actually, she was being sued for a temporary restraining order, but there was a lot of weird stuff that went on in even that lawsuit, that first one. It was like the lawyer was the lawyer until the lawsuit was filed, and then it was like the personal friend. I'm just the personal friend. That's how it happens to be a lawyer. There's a lawyer of record, but that lawyer of record, Matthew Fry, he never really participated in anything. And the lawyer friend was the one that kind of like helped with seemingly with the settlement, because the lawsuit ended up getting dropped. So he didn't sue her. His lawyer also withdrew from the case after making many arguments to his favor. It appeared that the client was trying to say that Bree all of a sudden wasn't asking for any money and she had a change of heart. But I think that was to create a paper trail to make it look like she didn't get paid because he didn't want to look guilty of something. Maybe that's why that lawyer withdrew. I don't know. Something feels a little strange about the whole situation. It definitely feels a little bit off. And it's, you know, three different lawsuits we've seen. Two of them have already been settled, seemingly. They got taken off calendar. And usually if something gets taken off calendar, it's for this, you know, voluntary dismissal like that. It's usually because they've reached some type of agreement that they're gonna, you know, walk their separate ways. But usually that requires one party. Hey, I don't know. You know, it could be just, I won't talk about you, you won't talk about me, I won't sue you, you won't sue me, which is something that does happen, an agreement not to sue. But it'll be very interesting to see how, not only how this lawsuit shakes out, but also how the lawsuit mirrors or reflects, if it does at all, any of the previous patterns that we've now been able to see. All that to say, I mean, that leaves us with some questions remaining. Like, for one, is this going to play out like the last high-profile case repped by Busby, where the circus of it all ends up clearing the name of the person getting sued, like in this case, namely Andrew Tate? Will it shape up like the previous cases that she was involved in?
You wanna go outside and go potty?
Voluntary dismissal, maybe it was a settlement.
Go potty?
Is this woman a honey trap? Sent in by enemy operators to
Yeah,
gather
okay.
intel or create circumstances giving rise to certain types of legal disputes? Is Andrew Tate the monster everybody appears to believe he is and wants us to think he is? Well, since
I am literally super exhausted. I'm dying. But
context that I just provided in this
I don't know.
video
I left my house this morning at like 7, and I went to work, and then I like did a bunch of shit at work, and then I got back here. I've been doing this since 11. That's how long I've been in here. Okay, let's go outside, go potty. Come on, let's go potty outside. Come on.
More interests at play. It might be worth a refresher on the cross-section between the world's oldest profession, how those economic systems operated historically, namely.
Well, you gotta wait for me first. Mom first. Excuse me. Mom first. Come on. Go potty. What's up?
Just told me that it's taken longer than he expected. And
He literally talked to me about it. I got the dogs. Everything's fine.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, no, everything's fine. I don't know why he does that. Orly?
He does.
Get over here. It's just like pointless to have you run over here when I'm literally here.
Fair enough, but
And he could call me.
have a double-
I know, but he didn't, you know, it's just, he does that as like a first line of resort. It doesn't even make any sense. Come on, Orly, let's go. All right.
Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. I'll see you later. Yep, don't forget your hoodie.
No, this is Adam's.
Oh. Stay right here. Oh my God, girls, stop it. All right, go potty. Hey! better get over there and go potty. Do not run towards the driveway. You scare the shit out of me. Ugh. I don't know why he bothers her. I'm literally right here. He knows I'm taking care of the puppies. Like, I agreed to do it. He calls her, makes her come all the way over here. This motherfucker. What are you doing? Orly Elizabeth, go potty. Orly, go potty. Right here. Hello. Are you going to go potty? Oh, God, he's running. Please don't run. Come here. Come here. What are you doing? Oh, God, he's running. Where you at? Piggy, calm down. Ooh, I have a pimple. I don't know why he bothers her when I am right here and I can help with the babies. I was going to drink a coffee drink, but if I drink that coffee drink, I might not go to bed. All right, come on, let's go home. Yeah, well, she was just trying to get in my space. Come on. And I caught her. But, he does call her, and sometimes he'll text me. I may have a text on my phone right now saying, hey, all right, go inside. Amy will be, go inside. Amy will be stopping by, to check on the dogs or to do this in my house and blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily trust her, like, with my life or anything. I mean, but, like, I've also tested her. When I went out of town, there were things, my flashlight, I did think she stole it until just now today but I didn't say, like, oh, I think she stole it for sure, because I had gone out of town and the keys to the bus had come missing while I was in town, which means that a bunch of shit had gotten knocked down by the cat. So, I was like just waiting for this day, moving out of there, to find out for sure if, it was really missing, or get your food. If it was really missing, or if it was just that it really just, a bunch of shit fell down, which is what happened. So everything, there is one thing that I haven't found, but it could be in my drawer, so I have to empty all the drawers out before I'll know for sure.
Police report has been filed. I have a meeting with the detective on Monday. I will cancel the meeting and retract the statement.
I might sit down and crochet for a little while.
Cash today.
Where's my project?
What? You took $40K from my safe and $7,500 in fake Axia investment. I am willing to work.
This damn green screen shit.
Fake. Then that means they're not worth nothing, right? I'm willing to work with you if you bring back $30,000 today. And she means cash. And I will drop everything. Otherwise, I'm prepared to see this through to the end. She said, "What's your Zelle?"
Are you hearing this thing?
She sends it. And she's like, okay, but there's a limit on Zelle. And he's like, I'm not in Los Angeles. Also, I'm going to make traceable transactions for my legal purposes. I am a private client. I can do $7,500 a day, meaning that his limit at the bank is to do $7,500 a day, and he wants it to be traceable for legal reasons. She said, that's not how it works. That's not how this works. If you don't give me my cash by today, like agreed, then I'll just let the police handle it. If you're not here, figure it out. You missed the 3 p.m. deadline today, so I'm giving you one more chance. She's giving him a chance.
She's extorting him.
This is like pretty cutthroat, right? The money better start. That's what it felt like to me. Like, doesn't this give that Woe Vicky twinge of like, do you think I am playing with you? Why would I be playing? This is my money. This is how I make my money. The money better start appearing in my account today, she said. And then he sent her $5,000 and a receipt. She said, go into your account and screen record it since you are so good at making fake documents. I received nothing because the date on both of those documents says April 18th and today is the 16th. So he did say, he probably wasn't going to have it in his account until 2 days. So it does say on here, send on April 18th, 2022. She said, I'm not letting this go until you actually return $30K of my money to me and it is in my hands or my bank account, and that is a fact. I don't IDK how much clearer I can be so you can get it through your tiny little brain, but my meeting with the detective is Monday, and I'm not moving it unless I have $30,000 in my possession. Up to you. My lawyer just confirmed we have a meeting with the prosecuting attorney on Monday. It's done. It's over. I'm not going to say on camera, I'll tell you off camera who this also makes me think of, who's very good at sending texts that sound like this. It's done. It's over. But this is where my red flag started to go off. So, like, let's live in the universe for a second. These are authentic texts, and Brie really said this. If she had a lawyer, the lawyer would be sending these texts. My lawyer just confirmed, we have a meeting with the prosecuting attorney on Monday. It's done. It's over. On Monday is a lot of time. Okay, girl, nobody thinks it's done. It's over. If you can move $30K cash in a day, nothing's done and nothing's over if it hasn't happened yet. Okay, Monday, it's like too far. It's like kind of not, it's kind of amateurish. It is aggressive, but that makes me wonder, is he just already so heightened? Do they have a tape of him doing something weird at the Super Bowl box? You know, I don't know what's going on here, but it's just like, why are you doing these weird texts if you have a lawyer who's going to meet with you? Maybe not. I mean, we have to pay. I wouldn't pay a lawyer to text this guy. Maybe I would say my lawyer confirmed. But this whole prosecuting attorney on Monday, it's done, it's over. I would be like, you better get my money before Monday because Monday is happening. She's like, no, it's already happened. It's Monday. It's going to happen Monday, but it's already over. Like, it doesn't give anybody time to get the money. But whatever. I mean, I don't interact with people who act like this, behave like this. I've never been in this position. I wish a bitch would. Because we were live streaming these text messages live. But again, who knows if it's real? He's saying it is. He says, okay, do you want me to stop the money I sent or continue to do so? Then he says, Bree, I have been asked to leave the country. Please stop. I will do whatever you want. So he's like, kind of like, in distress. I have nothing in South Africa. I will never be able to come back. I will never be able to do anything I've wanted. Please, just stop. I didn't take your stuff, but I'll give you money. Just stop. I don't want to be sent back. I don't know who you spoke to or what you did, but I have been asked to leave without force. Please, Bree, just have them pull it back. Please, Bree, please. I wonder if he was staying in her apartment at this time. Can I get someone to bring you it? No, he said he wasn't in Los Angeles, but he wasn't necessarily in South Africa either. And he says, can I get someone to bring you cash? She said, I will postpone the detective one day. If you bring me the full $47,500 you stole from me, it keeps going up. Cash, noon, today. And
that's what Roxanne tried to do to me, but the number kept going down.
If not, I speak to detective as they are requesting and I post all over social media. I'm done. Last chance. This sounds so familiar to texts I've seen from a certain somebody I'm wanting. This guy says, Brie, I didn't effing steal your money. And now I'm being deported. I'm going to have someone I know bring in LA some cash. What time are you at home? Please, just tell whoever you told to hold off. Brie. Please, this is everything I've worked hard for in my entire life. And she says, I'm here till 11:45. Let me know when you're on your way. He's like, I'm not in Trader Joe's. Cash. What is this? I'm not in LA. I have to get someone to do it for me. Please tell the Department of State to hold off. This is drama. This is the girl Sue and Andrew Tate. Tell the Department of State to hold off on deporting me. Bree, they want me to leave the country. Please just hold off. He said, what time will your person be here to... She said, what time will your person be here to return my money?
Oh, I'm going to eat the shit out of this.
Money. I don't even know your safe code, but being deported is the worst thing that could happen to me.
Hopefully
I would
it's not gone bad.
Got stopped. Please, that's bad. You don't put that in writing. You would pay anything to have something stopped? No. Nothing I have that I would pay to have stopped. Stop it, baby. You don't use code word to break in. So he broke in. So yeah, anyway, I think that pretty much gives you a little of the gist. My attorney advised that you can't sue for defamation if you don't make yeah, so he's saying, you know, I've had my lawyer step in, I think. I'm gonna see if I can get this sorted. I didn't break into your stuff. I know you don't have anything on camera because I know I didn't do it. But I'll pay if you just stop the Department of State to stop the deporting process. Please breathe. My attorney, she says, also advised you can't sue for defamation if the statements I am making are true and have proof, which I do. You chose a good time to come clean because me, Frankie, and a couple others that you scammed who have proof, we're all planning to post you on social media today, along with our proof, your fraudulent documents, etc. There's no seeing if you can get it done. You will be getting it done. My money will be back to me before noon today. He said, Bree, I know for a fact I didn't take your stuff, but I will make sure you have money and I will have it all in your account if you can just hold off on the deporting, please. You will have money today. Not in my account.
No, she's not moving into the shed. No, absolutely not. She's not moving here at all.
This is getting so much more and more aggressive. But she is negotiating too at the same time because she comes off of it and changes the, okay, fine, I'll do it one day, but only if you have cash noon today. Like, she's not, yeah. She's extorting a little bit to me. It's mean-hearted. That's what I'm wondering, and it's like whoever is typing these text messages is clearly comfortable saying stuff like this and knows that this guy has access to $30,000 in cash. Not everybody has access to $30,000 cash dollars. Actually, I'd venture to say not most people.
Go.
It could be
Lay
that
down.
he was a target of an extortion scheme.
Dude, no, you done got yourself.
But they did. I mean, it's convincing. They went on camera. She has her whole own version of things. I mean, it is diametrically opposed. It is exactly opposite from each other. She's never done it a day in her life. To him, he says she's addicted to it. You know, stuff like that. So it's like, who's lying? And they do have a whole group of people. It's two people sitting on the podcast, and they're both like, yeah, he scammed me. It's scary. If you're not here, figure it out. He said, I'm figuring it out. Then she messages him, what time will you be here to return my money? He said, I got someone who can drop off $38K tomorrow after his work at 3:30 at Trader Joe's in cash. I'm not in LA. Like I said, that is the best I could do and the fastest too. Could you please just have the Department of State person you talk to hold off? She said, this is the last time I am going to discuss this with you. You have until 4 p.m. tomorrow to have $38K returned to me in cash. I will push my meeting with the detective to 4:30 p.m. If I don't have the money by 4, I will finalize the report. What does that even mean? And post you all over social media along with your photos and proof. He said, you will have the full amount of money by that time. And I also wonder, is it like some type of gambling debt situation type, like stuff involved somehow in here too? Like, is there gambling? Like, I'm getting a gambling tingle. Like, I'm definitely extortionistic. And he is like golden boy. And it could be some level of like he called her out for doing, you know, pornographic pictures in a lawsuit. And it's like, I bet you there's some level of like, she can get just as close to these guys as she does. And she probably falls for some of them. He's not unattractive. She described him as nerdy. He's very attractive. He's a handsome young man. And he's got everything going for him. The family name, the money, the golf, the all of it. And in secret and for alone time, he likes her. Obsessed with her probably. Walks her dog, cleans her apartment. But she'll never be Mrs. Vander Woodson. She knows it. He said in the lawsuit, one of the reasons they were incompatible is because he discovered pictures of her online that were, I think he said. And it's like, you know, that's not for me to judge whether you can make that decision or not, but it just probably ends up being the case. Like, Andrew Tate isn't going to wife her because he hired her to be a sexy hot model for a photo shoot. It does happen. But I wonder if like some level of this animosity isn't like just like she just has hatred, resentment about something. Also, I'm not above the idea this ain't her at all. Because, you know, one of the allegations of this fan cam business world is that they hire men and other people to write the messages for the people on Telegram and OF and all of that. And so if they're hiring these men to do that, why wouldn't they be hiring Hal Fonda to do this? You know, and I don't know if this is even her. This could also be fake and doctored. But she is seemingly, according to what is presented here, blackmailing. I'm going to post this unless you give me money. And the way that it was so aggressive, noon, my hand, cash, now, today, all of that stuff really freaks me out. It makes me feel like it's possible that we're dealing with something a lot bigger and more sinister than a simple domestic dispute. And it makes me wonder, you know, what are the allegations against Andrew Tate that people make that he always taunts and says, I mean, I don't watch him that much. I've seen him talk about this stuff before, and he says, where are the victims? Where is a single victim? Y'all brought up that belt tape. The so-called alleged victim came out and said she liked that. That's what we used to would do. She's into it. She came out and said it, defended him, said he was so nice and so great. He said, where's the victims? These people they saying are victims ain't victims. So where are they? Well, now we have one. Just in time, right before he boarded that plane. Is it possible, you know, he's just into some freaky stuff, you know, some types of things, and maybe she was too? I do not think that is what happened for sure. But I think with everything that I've just seen in these publicly filed documents, it's not adding up with how much they're pushing it. Like, what really happened? If I would have seen a bruise, if I would have seen some fingerprint marks or something, I would have even. But it's like her face looks a little red, but I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to be looking at with that thing. I'm not even sure how much of this girl's own life she's in charge of. Type of thing. Anyway, that's all I really have for that one. Meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean, okay, bye.
He took OF pictures at his job in a preschool bathroom. Now he has finally responded, and this is the most messed up thing I have seen on the internet in a long time. So this guy's name is Michael Duvall. He has 1 million followers on TikTok and worked at a preschool. He also does OnlyFriends.
We have got to talk about the strange and very disturbing story of Michael Duvall.
And while he was working at the preschool, he was literally taking OnlyFriends pictures. Not only was it photos and videos of him on the toilet at the daycare center, where you could literally see the potty chair training seats.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about something that honestly shook me. And it's not because it's just shocking, but it's because it's so completely out of bounds. I'm talking about the OnlyFans creator, Michael Duvall, who recently addressed...
All right, I'm gonna call Elliot, and I'm gonna like go to fuck to sleep.
Yeah, you heard that right. A daycare, a place for toddlers, a place for children. And what makes this worse, he later said he was blinded by money. So let's break this down, because this isn't just irresponsible.
Orly, no, you're not getting in the bed. Sorry, buddy. You've got your own bed. You're not getting up here. No.
Later, after he faced
no, I need you down there so you can get the fucking rats, dude. No.
But his excuse is that it was just the money that had blinded him, and he couldn't think straight. Now, let's be clear. Regret after getting caught is not the same thing as accountability.
All right.
This wasn't just a bad
I love you guys.
decision.
I'm gonna go to bed.
It was a blatant violation of
I'll see you later.
standard of decency.
To the day